Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Board of Commissioners, City of Bowling Green, Kentucky regular meeting, City Hall, March 15th, 2022 at 4:30 p.m. We're going to start out with the invocation, and I'll stand. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this opportunity to be in our city, to be in our City Hall, and to be able to make decisions. We ask that our decisions are guided by our values and that we are guided by the principles and that we have learned. We pray right now for our world. There's over 2.5 million refugees that don't have a home right now. There's a country at war that is fighting for their sovereignty. We pray for that country. We pray for that peace. We pray for the city of Bowling Green as we continue to get stronger from BG Strong, and as we come out as a community to take care of each other and continue to do what we did after the storm. I thank you for the people here that are being promoted. I thank you for the people that run this city, and I thank you for the commitment of the commission to be able to support you. And Lord, I thank you for this day that you've made. Amen. We'll do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mrs. Jackson, will you please accomplish a roll call?
Commissioner Hill, who is absent. Commissioner Perigin.
Here.
Commissioner Bailey.
Here.
Commissioner Beasley Brown.
Here.
Mayor Alcott.
Here. I'd like to say Mrs. Hill, Commissioner Hill, she gives her condolences, or actually we give her condolences. Her uncle passed away. She's at the funeral tonight. And so she wanted to express to you her apologies for missing tonight, but that's where she is. So our hearts and minds are with her and her family as well. All right, our first agenda item is our regular meeting approval of minutes for March 1st, 2022.
So moved.
Oh, I'm going to hold. Sorry, I apologize,
That's fine.
Carlos. Mr. Meisel, do you have any comments you'd like to make at this time?
I do, Mayor. First of all, if there's anyone in the audience that wants to make public comments at the end of our regular session, please sign the clipboard in the back corner of the room. Second of all, I want to try to make an attempt to clear up some social media, which I shouldn't attempt, but this involves our city police department and our pay. And there's been some misinformation floating around out there about our police pay and how we pay our policemen. And I just want to make a few things clear. First of all, we are working on looking at our police pay plan and making it competitive. We know we are competing with the Kentucky State Police now and with our Warren County Sheriff's Office and many other agencies. So we're looking at that every day. I've been working with our CFO and our HR director, and we're running numbers and seeing what's affordable. But we are a large organization now. We have 500 full-time employees that we have to look after and oversee, but police and fire are our two biggest departments, obviously. Going back to police pay, when an officer is hired, they go through our in-house academy that takes roughly 20 to 22 weeks. I think it's more like 22 weeks. Once they finish that academy, we give them a $1,000 incentive bonus. I don't know if we call it a bonus, but an incentive for finishing the academy. And we started that in 2018 to make up for the time difference between how long it takes to finish a fire academy versus a police academy, and then to be eligible for the state incentive pay of $4,000 annually. So once they get certified, they're then getting $4,000 state pay on top of their base pay. They are then eligible to go after what's called an APO or an MPO. An APO is, help me out somebody, A is for Advanced, thank you, Chief, Advanced Police Officer and Master Police Officer. an advanced police officer can make $2,500 a year more on top of their base, and a master police officer can now make $5,000 on top of their base. So someone making a $47,000 base salary really could make another $9,000 on top of that, plus any and all overtime that they can earn. So we made some changes back in 2018. We increased the APO pay from $1,600 to $2,500. We also increased the MPO pay from $3,200 to $5,000. And back in 2018, anyone promoting to sergeant could not keep their APO or MPO pay. So we changed that rule and we allowed them to keep half of their APO or MPO pay, carrying that into their sergeant rank. So we made that change. So we are now looking at trying to be more competitive with other agencies. We also have a challenge of fringe. Our fringe costs are 50% or better above any base pay. When you look at CERS and what we pay in almost 50% toward retirement for our hazardous workers. So with all that said, we are hopefully going to be able to do a COLA and a step for all employees, and we're going to do all we can to be as competitive as possible and as soon as possible for our police department and in other departments as well. And so I just want everybody to realize that we are a major operation now. We're 500 full-time employees. Our budget for general fund is roughly $80 to $85 million, and our personnel costs are roughly 65 to 70% of that budget. So every decision we make is long-term. So we have to be very careful. So we're going to do the best we can. We're going to squeeze out every penny we can out of this upcoming budget and try to meet the challenges that are before us with being competitive. With that said, I'm going to move on, and there will be a need for a closed session, and Ashley will read the reason.
Pursuant to KRS 61-810-1B, for the purpose of deliberations on the future acquisition of real property by the city, as publicity would likely affect the value of the specific piece of property to be acquired by the city.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Perigin, second by Commissioner Bailey. Roll call.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes. Will that closed session go before or after the working session? At the end. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Mr. Meisel. Our first item is approval of minutes for regular meeting, March 1st, 2022. Perigin and
second.
Bailey, thank you. Any discussion? None. Roll call.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes. Municipal Order Number 2022-49.
Municipal order approving the promotions of Richard Harrison and Nicole Wright to the position of Communications Supervisor in their police department.
So moved. Second.
By Commissioner B. Brown, second by Commissioner Perigin. Mr. Meisel.
With the promotion of Ashley Remington to our dispatch manager, we had that opening come up, and we had a couple of resignations, so we've been looking for some supervisors. I'd like to ask Chief Delaney to come up and make recommendations for two appointments tonight. Chief?
Afternoon. Glad to be here today to make some recommendations. As he mentioned, with the promotion of Ashley Remington and resignation of Amanda Hamilton, we have some vacancies. All of it starts at the heart of the service that we give our community. It starts with dispatch. So we're happy tonight to recommend two great dispatchers tonight. Richard Harrison will be the first one. If you would please stand. He'll be moving into a supervisor role, leading other dispatchers, really training them, the things that he's been doing in the past on the type of service that we provide to our community, and really molding new dispatchers and showing them the Bowling Green Police Department way. Richard Harrison started with us in May of 2017. He's originally from Glasgow High, or graduated Glasgow High School, went to Western Kentucky, got his bachelor's in 2008, and he's been one of our training officers. He's also an advanced communication dispatcher, and Maria and Joel Harrison are here with him tonight to help him celebrate with this. So he's going to be one of the first recommendations for promotion. Nicole Wright, if you would please stand. Nicole was born in Granite City, Illinois, but she's grown up most of her life here in Bowling Green. She started with the police department in 2006. She's currently a junior at Western Kentucky University, and she's a dragon, so she's got to be good, you know. She graduated Warren Central High School, so that's the reason. No, I'm just playing. She's also a tech officer, a terminal access coordinator, and she's one of our CTO's communication training officers. Nicole is always a ball of fire, ready to jump in and help. I go in dispatch quite often, and the first words out of her mouth is, "What can I help you with?" So she's always willing to help in any way possible, and I'd like to recommend those two for promotion tonight, and I'm willing to take any questions.
All right, let's make this official. Roll call, please.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes, congratulations, Richard and Nicole. And thank you for your families for being here tonight as well. Appreciate you. Municipal Order Number 2022-50.
Municipal order approving the probationary appointment of Jonathan Norris to the position of trades worker electrician in the Parks and Recreation Department. Sorry.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Perigin, second by Commissioner Beasley Brown. Mr. Meisel.
Looking for this one for a while, and we think we found the right man for the job, and I'd like to ask Aaron Holsey to come up and make the appointment recommendation for electrician for Parks and Rec. Aaron?
Good afternoon. We have been looking for an electrician for quite a while. We have a very small electrical division, so it somewhat limits us. We can't do an extended apprenticeship program, but we have found someone who we think fits the bill and will do great for the city. So we're recommending Jonathan Norris. He's with us tonight. He has completed his apprenticeship program and the majority of his journeyman program. So he is a licensed electrician. He just has a couple more months to work until he can sit for his master exam. Until then, he will be generally supervised. His hours will be approved by our current master electrician and by Stanley Porter, and then we will have 2 master electricians on staff once again. So there's no other candidates that we were really reviewing. This was open until filled, and so that's the recommendation I have for you today. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Tosley. Questions? All right, roll call, please.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes, congratulations, Jonathan. Municipal Order Number 2022-51.
Municipal order approving the probationary appointments of Madison Alexander, Emily Bryant, Ryan Butler, Brandon Hughes, Andrew Kai, Dawson McDaniel, Max Mueller, Cole Pitty, and Tyler Staton to the position of police officer in the police department.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Commissioner Perigin, second by Commissioner Bailey. Mr. Meisel.
We have an opportunity tonight to staff back up somewhat at the police department. I'd like to ask Tiger Tooley, one of our HR managers, to step up and give you these appointments tonight. Tiger?
Evening. All right, so currently the police department has about 13 patrol officer vacancies. HR and the police department began our recruitment process for class number 3 of the Bowling Green Law Enforcement Academy in August of 2021. During that process, we received 60 applications. 35 of those applicants participated in the POPS testing. 32 of those passed. 21 were scheduled for background checks, psychologicals, and polygraphs. 12 of those applicants were interviewed, including 3 police cadets. The interview committee consisted of Chief Delaney, Deputy Chiefs Penny Bowles, and Brian Harrell, and myself. We would like to recommend the probationary appointment of 9 of the applicants to the position of police officer. Please stand as I read your name out. I don't know where all you are. It's kind of full. Okay. All right. Madison Alexander. Oh, she's a military.
Ua.
Maddie is, she is Army National Guard. Okay? She is from Franklin, Kentucky. She has a bachelor's degree from Western Kentucky University in criminology and psychology with a minor in military science. Maddie is currently serving in the Army National Guard and is a police cadet. Emily Bryant. Okay. Emily is a graduate from Russell County High School. She attended Western Kentucky University and is a former cadet with Bowling Green Police Department. Ryan Butler is a graduate of Highlands Christian Academy in Florida. He played basketball in high school and in college. Brandon Hughes. Brandon is from Bowling Green, Kentucky. He is a graduate of Warren East High School where he played football. Andrew Kai. Andrew is a graduate of Warren Central High School where he played soccer. He is currently a line lead at Bendex. Dawson McDaniel. Dawson has a degree in exercise science with a minor in business administration from Western Kentucky University where he also played golf. Max Mueller. Max is a graduate of Victory Christian Academy. He currently works at Bowling Green Police Department as a cadet and at Publix as a customer service staff member. Max was formerly part of the Pathfinder program at the police department. Cole Petty. Cole is from Tompkinsville, Kentucky. He graduated from Monroe County High School. Cole currently serves in the Army National Guard. Tyler Staten. Tyler is a graduate from Bardstown High School. He attended Western Kentucky University and is currently a police cadet. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Tooley. We have an esteemed members standing amongst us today, and it's especially nice to see the cadet program is working and what it's leading to. And I've seen some of the work of the cadets that they accomplished during the storm, and it was so much more than what people really realize. They were holding our community together as far as communication, and they were there literally on day one. So very proud of that effort, and to see this class stand in front of us. We need you, and we applaud you for your service and what you're going to do for our community. And we wish you well, and please find you a good mentor. A person that's standing over here would be a great person to choose, but there are many mentors within our police department that can help you, and mentors that are out there, retirees, because you're truly joining a family tonight. And we appreciate the families for being here as well. So thank you very, very much. Commissioners?
Congratulations. Look forward to seeing you all around town, and stay safe.
Likewise, congratulations. My wife is from Bardstown, and I'm a Dragon as well.
And I just want to thank all of you for serving our community and just for your families. I know that this commitment is something that doesn't happen without the family and the sacrifices you're going to be making. And so you're all in my prayers, and I'm so grateful for your service for our community. Thank you so much.
All right, let's make this official. Roll call, please.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes, congratulations. Would the families please stand up too? Families, please stand up that are here with your, thank you. All right, the doors are locked. No, you may go home and celebrate, and thank you all so much for being here. Congratulations to each of you.
See all of you at your next promotion.
It pretty much clears out the room.
All right, we're going to move on. Municipal Order number 2022-52.
So
Munis-
moved. Oh,
Got ahead, Carlos.
yeah, I did.
We're ready.
Municipal order authorizing and accepting bid number 2022-35 for fire department equipment from various vendors in the total amount not to exceed $175,000.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Bailey, second by Commissioner Perigin. Mr. Mizel.
So every year, the fire department budgets for public safety supplies, loose equipment, safety items. And a couple years ago, we started going about this a little different, and we go out for bid, and we have companies interested in providing those to us to give us a bid based on a discounted percentage of the manufacturer's published retail, the MSRP basically, for every item that our fire department may use or need. And so before you tonight, we've got a list. We had 7 bids received from 7 companies to provide these products to our fire department. These were looked over, and basically you get to go down the list and pick the ones with the best discount on the items that you're wanting. And so we are going to award to 4 out of the 7 companies for various products. Those 4 companies would be 911 Fleet and Fire Equipment out of Florence, Kentucky, Atlantic Emergency Solutions out of Yorktown, Virginia, Fire Department Service and Supply Company out of Louisville, and General Rubber and Plastics out of Louisville. And Chief Brooks is here to answer any questions you might have on this. And this basically gives them a catalog throughout the year to go pick what they need to get ordered, pick it off the list, make the call, and order up from 4 of these companies that had the best discounts on these products. Say that right, Chief?
Yes. Any questions from our commissioners? Thank you for getting us the best discounts, and thank you for getting us the best bargains. Appreciate that. Roll call, please.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes. Municipal Order Number 2022-53.
Municipal order authorizing and accepting Premier One software annual maintenance through a sole source from Motorola Solutions, Inc. of Chicago, Illinois, in the amount of $108,762.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Beasley Brown, second by Commissioner Perigin. Mr. Mizel.
We put a new computer-aided dispatch system in, CAD system, back in 2020 down at Police Department. It was a Motorola system. We are about 2 years into this. We got the first year of annual maintenance covered with the contract, and this would be our first annual maintenance payment of $108,762. This is a sole source because the only company that can do it, of course, is Motorola that put the system in. So this provides us with technical phone support, troubleshooting, software enhancements, upgrades, whatever we need. And again, this is split between 3 different funds with our E911, our wireless 911, and our general fund. And Danita Weeks, our IT director, is here to answer any questions you might have on this item.
Questions? All right, there's none. Roll call.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes. Municipal Order Number 2022-54.
Municipal order authorizing a change order to the contract with Tetra Tech, Inc. of Louisville, Kentucky for disaster recovery consulting services through non-competitive negotiations for a total project cost not to exceed $78,654.20.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Perigin, second by Commissioner Bailey. Mr. Mizel.
So if you all will recall, we used Tetra Tech for the monitoring of the debris pickup to make sure we maximized our FEMA reimbursement. We are also using Tetra Tech to manage all the other claims we might file with FEMA. And so we originally thought we could get by with $24,940, but after getting more into this disaster recovery, we realize there's a mountain of work. The FEMA system requires us to put 4,000 separate entries into their system to claim reimbursement. So we're asking you tonight to go from the $24,940 contract amount not to exceed to a not-to-exceed amount of $78,654. Dave Weisbrot can't do this by himself in-house. We just don't have the manpower and the hours to put in 4,000 distinct pieces of data into a data entry system for FEMA's grant portal. So it's a mountain of work, and we are preferring that Tetra Tech do it. They're highly skilled and qualified and used to doing this kind of work, and would ask for your support for this this increase in their contract.
I'll answer, how long do they estimate that this is going to take to reconcile these 4,000 entries for our federal government?
I'll step in for Dave to try to help. He's not here. They predict that they'll get that done in a couple of months. They've actually said quicker, but we have continuing records for our force account labor. Our guys are still picking up some vegetative and some construction debris. So those records will continue to go into them for entry into that grants portal system that we talk about here in the memo.
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah.
Greg, can I ask you a
Yes.
question? Don't you feel like the federal government is going to be a lot more accepting of a third party's data than if we did this internally? I mean,
So it's not just about a third party, it's about somebody that's got experience,
Right.
again, in doing it. So they kind of know the pitfalls, they know what's been accepted before, they know what hasn't been accepted before.
Right.
So they really vet the data really good before it goes into that system, so we don't have the questions on the back end,
Right.
hopefully.
So this pays for itself essentially?
It does. And it's
and some.
100% reimbursed up to 5% of the total cost of category A through G, I think it is. They call it category Z is what this is. So anyhow, I could go on, but I would be
Well, I just
talking
would
about
like for
stuff
the
I don't
public
know.
to know that this is
Yes.
this is essentially earning us money.
It
Or
is.
spend a little to make sure that our FEMA reimbursement, I know the mayor and I were on a call with either Tuscaloosa or Tupelo, and they were still working on their FEMA reimbursement 10 years later. So it's a big project, and it means a lot to our community.
From day one, we have coded every expense with the special project code that finance has been tracking, Katie. But even with that, even with this, we'll have to hand them all of our accounting and project costs for this disaster. And it's a lot of work on both sides, but we feel like this is the right thing to do to make sure we maximize and we get every penny back we can from FEMA on this, and not spend any more city taxpayer dollars than we have to.
Couldn't agree more.
One of the things they stated to us is the things you don't know about FEMA. The mayor said you could literally write a book. And they said if they could go back and do things differently, it's really literally the path that we're on. And so we're coming out of this recovery in so many ways more efficiently than we could have ever, because we were able to stop, pause, and listen and learn. And I appreciate your staff that has done that from the get-go. So thank you.
Done a great job. Thank you.
All right. No further discussion. Roll call, please.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes. Municipal Order Number 2022-55.
Municipal order authorizing the acceptance of a grant from Open Society Foundations in support of state and local welcome efforts in an amount of $150,000.
So moved.
Second.
By Commissioner Beasley Brown, second by Commissioner Perigin. Mr. Mizel.
As you all know, we have received almost 400 Afghan, am I close, Leda? Approaching 400? Over 400? 354, thank you. So we brought this to you a couple meetings ago. This is an Open Society Foundation's grant, and we found out we can get it. There was $1 million out there for the taking, and we were one of 11 applicants, and they are offering us $150,000 to assist with the Afghan refugee resettlement. And we would like to accept this grant, this $150,000. There's no match required on this. This would help us hire a local coordinator to provide navigation services for the Afghan people. arriving in Bowling Green and help us with programming costs for English as a second language, ESL, driver's license education, and lots of other things. So really excited about this. This would be, I think, a contract with an outside party to help us with this. Leda, do you want to come up and say anything else about this program, or Brent, or answer any questions? I'm sure I missed some things.
Good evening. It was a really good opportunity that we were targeted for. I just want to make clear that municipal government does not receive federal funding for the resettlement of refugees in any city. So this is a very unique opportunity. We have never really gone after any type of funding, but we were targeted and invited to apply for this grant. And then we are one of 11 municipal governments. I think there was a state government and a county government across the United States that were funded, but we were the highest funded proposal that was made. So they were very happy to partner with us. And the position that we will hire will be very targeted support services for Afghans for a 12-month period. So it's very, very, in the first year of resettlement here with the city to help them navigate core resources, focusing on driver's license, English education, and also workforce services, which was what messaging we received, or what feedback we received from the community already was the greatest challenges that they were facing here in the city. So we're excited. Any questions?
On top of what you accomplished over the weekend, which is a massive undertaking, just want to say thank you for leading that effort. And I know there's many volunteers, including your husband. The meal was incredible. The Afghanis were wonderful people that are working in our community, and they appreciated, and many refugees that have come from previous, I know, contributed to that. And I want to say thank you, especially to the many communities that did that. But what specifically they all stated, wouldn't this have nice if this had happened for us? So that was really awesome to see this in place and this moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you for being there. I appreciate it.
And later, I want to echo
Yes.
that as well. And I want to appreciate, I guess, Nick Cook and Brent Childers, because I know just having the Afghanistan refugees come here is something that is hard to, go from your home to a new home, especially under the circumstances that they had. So I just want to let you know that, I also appreciate the efforts that have been put forth, at least by the city, especially last weekend. I didn't get to stay for the meal, so I apologize. I had to go see my daughters in the SpongeBob play. It was a great play, but I appreciate just being there and then being able to interact with some of the Afghanistan refugees and getting to learn a little bit more about our new neighbors.
Yeah, it was an incredible event. Thanks. I just want to echo their thanks for, setting up that event to welcome our Afghan refugee neighbors, and just, to hear their stories of resilience, getting pulled apart from their husbands or their spouses in the airport, and now they're separated, and just to see how resilient they are and just how eager they are. Just, okay, how can I get my driver's license? I'm ready to go to work. Hearing their, what they their life that they interrupted. I met one woman who taught anatomy in there in Afghanistan. So it's just incredible how eager they are to immediately be able to be an incredible asset to the local economy. And I think this grant will really help them with these small things that any of us would need some help navigating through to be able to negotiate changing the credentials of being able to teach anatomy in one country into another, and those little nuances. So I'm really grateful for you all going after this grant, and look forward to the stories we'll hear of the amazing ways they're going to join our community.
All right, let's accept this money that y'all sought after. Roll call, please.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes. Municipal Order Number 2022-56.
Municipal order approving and authorizing execution of an agreement with the Commonwealth of Kentucky Department of Housing, Buildings, and Construction related to the granting of additional responsibility of building and electrical permits, plan review, inspections, and enforcement.
So moved.
A second.
By Commissioner Perigin, second by Commissioner Bailey. Mr. Meisel.
So this is a renewal of approval from the state to do inspections for bigger structures. I'd like to thank Brent for working on this. We've been doing these since 1980. It's hard to believe. But the state allows us to do our own inspections for bigger projects instead of them having to come in, which would delay a lot of things. The ability with review plans and inspections and all that. So I'd like to thank Brent for his work on this, as well as Scott Hunt, our chief building inspector, that allows our building community to move as fast as they can and not be held back with any state inspections required on a lot of structures, such as big commercial structures that are going up, like in the Trans Park and in other places. So there are a few exclusions that the state does not allow this on. Those are listed in the memo that was provided from Mr. Hunt. So anyway, any questions you might have can be directed to Mr. Childers. Mr. Hunt is here too. Scott is in the back. So thank you, Scott. This gets us another 3 years of plan reviews and inspections that would otherwise have to be done by the state.
Thank you, Mr. Mizel. Questions? All right. Roll call, please.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes. Municipal Order Number 2022-57.
Municipal order authorizing the creation of a small business tornado relief program.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Perigin, second by Commissioner Bailey. I'm going to take this one. Thank you, Mr. Mizel. Came to Mr. Mizel a while ago and said, hey, what can we do for our small businesses that were hit in the disaster on December 11th? And his team came up with some concessions that I think are very fair and reasonable, and I think will help our businesses be able to stand back up that were hurt the hardest. And, you know, we give economic concessions to new businesses to entice them to come to Bowling Green, but I hope this is enticement to stay in Bowling Green, because our businesses are resilient, our community's resilient. They've come to everyone's help. Our businesses were taking care of others. I can speak for Fuji Striker. He's out there, literally, his building was completely destroyed, and he was out there running fundraisers to give Christmas toys to the community. And the stories go on and on and on. But what this does is two things. This gives a 5-year property tax rebate for businesses with under 50 employees that can start their tax assessment year this year, 2022, or they could push it to 2023, because some of the business assessments are lower now because they're destroyed, and the PVA went in and gave them a lower assessment. So they may want to shift that 5 years to next year. So that gives them a little bit more economic concession. That's if they own the business. But what you would do if they rent the business? And this would go for both those that rent and own. And this is a 5-year rebate for the net profit for businesses with under 50 employees. Did I say that correct, Katie? All right. So two things. This is also a 5-year. Is not or is a sliding scale? I apologize. This is the sliding. So they could do it for the 2022 tax year, or they could start it if they want in the 2023 tax year. What they will do in turn is they will pay the tax. They will have the opportunity to file for the rebate, and there will be a map that we put out that says these are the areas that are eligible. So it won't be eligible for everybody, because, you know, we're trying to take care of those that were in the disaster and those that were hurt by the disaster. So that map, in turn, you may want to give us a call, and you may want to understand that. And then we may also recommend that we give some calls. And, you know, we're just putting this out to the public, and the public will want to understand what we're doing. But just note, this is our effort, and I hope, and I've talked to the commissioners separately, and I know y'all all support this. I appreciate that greatly, because every one of the commissioners has expressed to me, how do we help? And we've worked with the city to be able to figure out what's the best way. So thank you, Mr. Mazel, to you and your team with working with the commissioners on this. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Hillary, because I know this is something that, you know, we're trying to budget. We didn't budget for this, but this is something we feel is necessary to do. So thank you.
Our staff, finance department, is already working on an application, and we will put that, as soon as we have the application available, we will put that information out through social media. We'll post it on our website so that it can be accessible. Even our GIS is going to set up a map, so we just plug in an address and it can tell us if it was in that area or not. So we should be able to get this going very quickly. But obviously, depending on what year, taxes won't be due until, you know, December at the end of this year if they want to start it for 2022. So we've got a little window to be able to get that going, but we do have the application in process right now.
Thank you, Katie.
Just to clarify, this is to build back or resume business in the location that they were
It's
damaged.
the current location. It's not to a new location, but it's at where they were excess damage.
And just a comment, I think it's a great proposal, Mayor. I think it's something that's gonna help, like you said, to stand these businesses back up in those areas. So you have my 100% support on this.
Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Commissioners. All right. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes. Municipal Order Number 2022-58.
Municipal order approving and authorizing out-of-town travel expenses for City Manager Jeff Meisel to attend the Kentucky City County Management Association Winter Conference in Lexington, Kentucky.
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Commissioner Perigin, second by Commissioner Beasley Brown. Mr. Meisel.
I would just like to thank you all for allowing me to attend the winter conference for the Kentucky City County Management Association. Katie and I both went up for 2 days and 2 nights and got to talk to other city managers and assistant city managers, and had some good sessions on things going on around the state, legislatively, and operation from other cities. Got some ideas and good presentation, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Meisel. Roll call, please.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes. Ordinance Number BG 2022-12, first reading, non-binding.
Ordinance amending Code of Ordinances. Ordinance amending Chapter 5, Animals of the City of Bowling Green Code of Ordinances.
So moved?
Second. That was moved by Commissioner Beasley Brown, second by myself. Mr. Meisel.
So we have changed a few things. Thanks to Mr. Brad Chargorowski, our new code compliance manager. We're proposing some changes to Chapter 5 related to compliance and voluntary things that people are getting better at, and we've changed some definitions in here, tweaked a few things with regard to animal property ownership, adequate shelters, vicious animals. We changed a few of the fines in here, took out some of the criminal charges. Is that correct, Hillary? And just kind of a mixed bag and cleanup of Chapter 5. And I'd like to ask, Brad, do you have anything you want to talk about on this that or Brent? What's that? Okay, yeah, take any questions that you all might have on this, but it's pretty straightforward. We're just kind of cleaning up, making some changes as we get into the new programs that Brad is implementing.
I have actually a couple of questions and possibly a few suggestions. The first question is going to go towards adequate housing. In the wake of the tornadoes, many outdoor dogs lost their homes too, and a good quality of wood homes are expensive to replace and increasingly hard to source. Has the NCS encountered situations where people are experiencing any type of financial hardships in meeting the housing and other requirements? That's the first question. If so,
Okay, go ahead.
how have, I guess, the situation been handled?
Answer is yes. We worked with our partners at the Humane Society, who has shelters available through donations to provide those. So our animal control officers, our animal protection officers, sorry, name changes are hard for me, have been working with homeowners and dog owners to make sure that they have adequate shelters for their pets.
My second question is basically about the fines. I'm looking at and reviewing the drafted animal ordinance from across the country, and admittedly, Bowling Green's animal violation fines are among the highest that I've seen at $800. I'm curious to know how are these fines being imposed, and are you successfully being able to collect on these fines? And what happens if the fines go unpaid?
Okay, two parts to that, maybe 3 or 4 parts to that. One, we looked at other cities, other communities across the country, trying to figure out what is that right number, right? Anytime you set a fine or a fee schedule, you have to determine what is appropriate. You set it too low, it doesn't mean anything. You set it too high, it's too aggressive. So the point of 800 is only in the circumstances when it is a third offense that has been reviewed by the Code Enforcement Board. So that would not be a staff decision to hit the 800. Staff is limited above that. Only the Code Enforcement Board can double those fines to get to the 800. The other one that is hitting the 800, generally the way we set up our fines is first offense is a set amount, second offense is double, third offense is double, and so the other one that is going to 800 is because the math didn't work out last time, so we fixed that. So 800 has never been applied to my knowledge. Generally, whenever staff are doing it, we're in that first offense. And so the way we look at this is it's an education first program. It is not a citation first program. So we try to work with the owner, work with the property owner to educate them about what the requirements are. We are in the compliance business. We are not in the enforcement citation business. It's just that some people have to be motivated by enforcement and citations. And so that's what puts us in that business. So we have not issued that for $800, and only the Code Enforcement Board could do that. In looking with other communities of similar size, we found that our fees and fines were in line with those. And so also in the last several weeks or the months, so what this really comes down to is a changeover in how we look at enforcement of animal protection. Before, they were a citation issued through the city, which just really was more like a parking ticket. There had no ability to collect on the back end of that. It was a piece of paper. Now looking at it from a nuisance standpoint, it's more similar to the way our code compliance department works in the application of liens against the property, so we have a collection mechanism. Our goal is to protect the animals from bad owners, but it's also to protect people from animals so that they're not getting bit or running at large or causing other nuisances. And so it's really about education and outreach and working with people as opposed to issuing the fines.
I appreciate that, but what I've found in looking at nationwide, it was a little bit less than $800. Can you send me any information that shows the cities are paying that amount for a city?
But I will say that our ability is limited at 400. So we as staff do not have the ability to go to 800, and that would only be under 2 circumstances: a kennel restriction, which would be a commercial business, and a vicious or dangerous animal where there is a third offense, so a third citation. So we have had to issue 3 citations, and the Code Enforcement Board has heard that, and the Code Enforcement Board has then said we are going to double it because we have that authority to. So staff do not have the ability, the Code Enforcement's Nuisance Board, only after a third citation.
With the change, can I offer a suggestion?
Go ahead.
Can you consider including procedures for contesting charges and violations, as well as including any additional fees that may be imposed at the shelter? Right now, there's fees that someone that may be going in their dog, they're not able to see. So for full transparency, when someone loses their animal and they're trying to get it back, what would be the total cost? I think they need to know the total cost of what the violation may be. Can that be considered and put into the code so people can look at that for transparency?
It could be.
Can you consider any fees to be waived for good cause? Example, like reclaiming the cost of care fees in the wake of the recent natural disaster.
Do you want to start, or you want me to
Well,
start?
we can't address the Humane Society's fees. We don't set their fees. We don't have any control over their fees. So we can't put their fees in our ordinance, either that we also can't collect fees. So for example, if the Humane Society releases a dog and we have a fee, they don't collect our fees. So
And
they
I-
do a service for us, but we cannot add their fees in here because they can change their fees. We don't have any control over that. We can only set our citations.
I get that. One thing that I fear, there's a lot of people who may not know what the fees are, and they're going into it looking at the fees that we have, and then they're gonna have to pay it. Then there's a lot of people that lose their dogs for whatever reason, or their pet, and they may have not been licensed, they may have not been neutered, they may have not been spayed, and they're going in there because they got their dog for free from a family member or someone else, so they're paying a fee that they never had to see. Then they're looking at that fee when they go in, and now they're gonna pay an additional fee that they didn't see. But I understand what you're saying.
And so they don't pay our citations to the Humane Society. So if they go to get their dog back and the Humane Society says, well, you have to pay us because we neutered your dog and you have to pay us for shots and for storage, our fees are not part of that. They are not required to pay our fees to get their dog back. The Humane Society will not hold the dog and say, you owe the city of Bowling Green $150 for a second offense license registration. They don't require that payment.
But today, we're raising the fees for some of the penalties, right?
We're
We are
raising the
only-
fines,
The
not
fines.
the fees.
Well,
The
and
fines.
we're only raising the vicious or dangerous animals because that is something that we have determined needs to be focused on because of the danger to other community members, and then care of animals. Those are the only two fees, I think, that are being,
Animal nuisances also.
animal nuisances.
And then cleaning up the third offense that I talked about and increasing those animal nuisances on the code enforcement side too, because the code enforcement board can double those. The second part of your question, or maybe the third or fourth, about extenuating circumstances, that's the role of the code enforcement board, is to provide that citizen review of extenuating circumstances. And there are many times that our staff go to the code enforcement board and say, we recommend the waiver of the fees or fines as part of this, because they've addressed it, they've worked this. We are in the compliance business, hence the name Code Compliance. That's what we're trying to do. It's not about beating everybody up. We want to make sure that the animal is cared for. We want to make sure that the animal is protected, just like we just want the yard mowed on the code side of it. Now, people are motivated by different things. So as Hillary talked about, the Humane Society is a separate independent organization of the city. They house animals on behalf of the city, they house animals on behalf of the county, and then they charge appropriately for those at their own determination. These are when our officers go out and say, we have told you, we've told you, we've told you, you're getting a citation from the city, now you owe the city this amount.
I get that. And we're looking at like code compliance, and you're the compliance department, but we're also seeking to raise the fines. Code compliance is, correct?
We're seeking to raise,
The
on
fines to
the
800.
staff side, animal nuisances from 50 to 75 on a first offense, and establishing care of animals and vicious or dangerous animals, if I'm reading that correctly based on the underlying.
So that's a yes then, correct?
That is correct. I'm
Okay.
telling you which of those three.
The second part, addressing the vicious and dangerous animals. Do we have something that includes due process to at least these owners that are absent today in these proposed ordinances? Are we going to include something like that for them?
Our code enforcement board is our due process. They would have a right to then appeal that citation to the code enforcement board, who would hear the whole case. I do want to point out too, with vicious or dangerous animals, there is a separate criminal charge for that. So by the time you get to a third offense, we are not likely to ever cite for that. That would be something the county attorney's office would handle. And we have met with Amy and with code compliance and our animal control officers and talked about making sure that we're not using both, that we're either citing or that we're going through the county attorney route. But one of her serious, I guess, efforts that she wants is any dog bites, any vicious or dangerous animals, they are most likely to take those cases. We're not likely to even cite for those. So, or if we do, they could then prosecute it and we could dismiss a citation. So this is an area where we are trying to keep people from keeping vicious or dangerous animals, because one dog attack can be very serious. So we need to have serious fines in place here.
And I agree with you. I just want to make sure that the owners have like that due process that's there.
And that's what our code enforcement board does. That is the due process that they get.
The last is about confinement. And I guess adequate shelter, I guess I forgot to mention that a suggestion. Because this definition allows for enclosed structures, I would like for it to add like adequate ventilation to this requirement for adequate shelter.
We can go back and look at. I'll tell you the background for what this was. This is a replacement of a previous definition that didn't meet, the standard was too low to provide for protection for the animal. And so it was really just three sides. Well, three sides of what? And then, so then the dog or the animal was laying in the dirt and the mud and the feces and all that. And so we wanted to make that minimum standard higher. The existing one was too low. So we can go back and look at that definition to see if there's anything in there that we need to tweak before second reading.
I do think other environmental conditions detrimental to the animal would include, I do think. And part of the reason we put this here is I think that they were attempting to address shelter through care of the animal, and Brad really felt like, and the officers felt like we needed a definition that would allow them to then explain to owners what needs to be in place.
And Mr. Childers, this is the last thing. I know you're probably like, man, ready for you to be done.
I'm paid all day.
Confinement. So the definition of confinement, the proposed definition exempts dogs in the bark park, but it does not exempt like community cats, which I believe that was authorized by, back in 2019. I'm not
That's
sure.
correct.
But that program, there was grant money that was given, but it also basically helped out with the spay and the neutering of the free roaming cats. My suggestion to see if it could be added is to consider adding except community cats or simply except cats in this section and any section applying for confinement of animals, or in general, since many are free roaming or often cannot easily be confined by leads, leashes, or harnesses. Because these animals are not owned or not microchipped, they should also be exempt for the annual license fee. That be added to that section.
That's quite a bit for us to add on the floor. I will say on the community cat side, since this board has already approved the adoption of that program, we didn't feel it necessary to make an exemption for that as part of this. So we felt like that the running at large in the public was really more about putting the responsibility and the onus on the owner for their animal as it is out there. Because that's ultimately who is responsible, is the owner for those types of offenses. So whether it be a cat or a pig or a horse or a goat or whatever the animal is, the owner still has that responsibility. But since this board has already approved the community cat program in partnership with the Humane Society, we didn't feel like we needed to then thereby double exempt it from this.
With respect, doesn't that board or doesn't that community cat expire within 2 years? If it was added in 2019, it possibly expired in 2021?
I can't recall when the expiration of that
It's a
is.
2-year
There was a
period.
first phase was 18 months, and then it was brought back and moved forward, and it would take an action of this board if there is a sunset on that to continue that. That's why we didn't include it in the ordinance in the first time and for the trial phase, because we wanted to have the opportunity for the Humane Society to try it out as they were trying to secure additional funding, because I think we all shared the common goal of reducing the overall cat population. This was a program that they said, hey, we want to be able to do this. We think it will work. And we all said, okay, let's give it a go. And this board agreed and said that we will allow you the opportunity to do that. Now, as far as when that expires, I can't recall. Time is all erased with COVID anymore.
If that expires, are you planning to basically, I guess, are we planning to make sure that we have it back on
So
and extend, I guess, that program?
If that trial period was to expire, then it would be up to the Humane Society to say, hey, we think that this has been successful, and bring it to you all for an actual change in the ordinance. We've changed this ordinance one other time after that has been in place, and we didn't include it that time because we wanted to keep those two separate. We wanted to keep it a trial period by adoption of the board, and but then also have our ordinance that we were using as an enforcement tool, an education tool for the community.
I think community cats, by definition, don't have owners, so there's no one to cite or hold responsible for a community cat. So I don't think we have to exempt them from here because there's no owner to cite for a cat.
Somewhere, they're almost domesticated wildlife.
But that's only for right now, while this statute is still in place, though, correct? By the community,
Oh, the trial is still in place.
right?
Yeah.
They're still not owned by anyone,
Thank you, Mr. Childers.
Yes, thanks, sir. Any other questions from the board? Thank you.
Thank you, Brent. All right, no further questions. Roll call, please.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes. Excuse me. Ordinance number BG 2022-13, this is our first reading, is non-binding.
Ordinance amending Code of Ordinances. Ordinance amending Chapter 2 Administration of the City of Bowling Green Code of Ordinances to increase the salary for commissioners.
So moved.
I'll second. All right. So that was moved by Commissioner Perigin, second by myself. One, no commissioner, no elected politician likes to tee this up. However, let me give you a little bit of background. And there has not been an adjustment on commissioners' salary in over 22 years, since 2009.
99.
Since 1999, thank you. So why are we doing this now? And I can give a very logical explanation. If I don't do this now, it will not be done, or it's not possible to do until the next elected cycle. The next elected cycle will be after January 2023. And to also state, no elected official can give themselves a raise, period, dot. Can't be done. The four of us up here, or the five if Melinda was here, cannot give themselves a raise. What you can do is you can give the next commissioners a raise. And so what do we make? Well, it's public information. Most people think I make hundreds of thousands. They think commissioners make hundreds of thousands. The commissioners make $16,000. I make $19,000. What am I doing here? Am I raising my own salary? No. And I'm not even raising the salary of the next mayor. That couldn't even be done. And if it was done today, it wouldn't go in effect till January of 2025. It'd have to be the next mayor. So you could make a decision as a public whether I'm doing the right thing or whether I'm doing the wrong thing. And I'm willing to live with that. What is being done is I am recommending at a rate of $15 an hour, which comes out to be $31,200. I rounded up to $31,500, is what I'm recommending that the next commissioners that are elected in November to be able to pay. That will come 1 January 2023. That's what I'm proposing. I've talked to the commissioners on this, and I can tell you that there are different opinions on this because of where we are and the police pay, and we have police officers, and we're in a vacuum. Mr. Meisel made a statement, but what you didn't hear is that all five of us made a commitment in January at our strategic council to ensure that we are looking, and we went to every operation chief. We went to Chief Delaney, to Chief Brooks, went to Mr. Meredith, went to both Brents. Across the board, we asked, what do we need to do to be competitive for a city our size to be able to give the fair and compensation rate that a city of Bowling Green, the third largest city in the state of Kentucky, the fastest growing city, needs to be competitive for our force. And not only our force, but all of our employees. So it wasn't just specific to the police department or the fire department, it was specific to all employees. And we also took the most aggressive approval on our budget, which was a COLA rate of 7% and a step rate, which is a little bit over 1%. So on July 1st, if the budget continues, we can always adjust, but as is, the budget will start. That's over an 8% pay raise. I asked Mr. Meisel, when's the last time we had an 8% pay raise? It hasn't happened in the last 25 years. I don't know if it's ever happened. Now, you can state that's based off of a lot of things. Inflation, you're right, inflation is high, 7% for the nation, so we're above inflation. However, that's not inflation for Bowling Green, that's inflation for the entire nation. The military, for example, gave 2.7% pay raise. Our county department gave their their sheriff department 2.5. I asked Sheriff Hightower to share, and they did give an ARPA they gave $2,500 to their sheriff. If you do a comparison of 1 year, a 7% and a COLA percent on their step pay for over 8% is more than a $2,500 and a 2.5% pay raise in the first year. However, the pay raise that we're given, the aggressive one, the 8% over total in 1 July that begins, will be the most aggressive we've ever given, and it will go towards their retirement. It will go towards longevity. It'll be in perpetuity next year and the year after. $2,500 bonus is only a one-time deal. So I'd rather have an 8%, and I think most people, they see the math, would rather have that than, but we're here to talk about the commissioners. So in optics, if we don't do this today, it won't be done this year. And I do think that the pay rate of $31,000 is right, and here's why. In 2008, there was a study done by the Board of Commission, and there was a council that had a recommendation, and the recommendation was that the commissioners to be paid at a rate of $22,000 and $30,000 to the mayor. Again, we're only talking about commissioners tonight. That $22,000, if you did the COLA adjustment, is around $30K today. So I'm a little bit above that. I'm at 31.5 due to inflation at $15 an hour. I know we don't work on an hourly schedule, but it's just kind of a rate that we use. So it's not just something shot in the dark. It's not a stab at the county government when you have 21 magistrates running for 5 positions and there's 6 magistrates, running for $39,000. Not trying to compare ourselves, but we are similar in governments and we are similar in position. And to be competitive, I think it makes a statement for the city of Bowling Green to have commissioners commensurate to, I think, a reasonable rate. I'm not asking for $39,000. I'm asking for a reasonable rate of $15 an hour. So that's what I put on the table, and that's why. I want the public to understand that. So I'm glad to second that. I know we only have 4 commissioners here tonight, but I wanted the public to understand, and I'll take the shot. That's what I'm here for. So if you want to give any shots, give it to me, because I'm the one proposing it. And it's not the mayor's salary, which is $19,000 right now. So I'll leave that. If there's questions or comments the commissioners want to make, that's your opportunity.
I'll make a comment. I was on that citizen-led pay study for the commissioners and the mayor back in 2008, and we spent probably 20, 25 hours, public forums, the whole 9 yards. Katie was a part of that, helping us to guide it, and were you, Ashley? And so that was 7 of us that probably spent 25 hours, each individual, so you can do the math there. It was an inordinate amount of time, and we brought I watched the video of it. We came to the commission and we brought the proposal that the mayor just read. And it was the craziest thing ever. It didn't get a vote because you had some that wanted to go the highest, which is $80-something thousand, or what, I don't even know what the high end of what the Kentucky statute says you can pay a commissioner is somewhere around $80,000, and then as low as something really bad. But we did bring that, and we did recommend that, and there was non-agreement amongst the board because some wanted to hold out for the highest, and some wanted to hold out for nothing, and it just didn't. There wasn't consensus. So that's where that was, but I do want you to know that was taken very serious, and we had public forums, and we had forums across departments, and we had 7 citizens that spent a lot of time looking at that, and I was sorry it didn't go, because it was a good recommendation, and it should have. And if that had gone, we wouldn't be here today from 14 years ago. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, Mayor, I really appreciate you offering this up and, trying to make sure we right size pay for, everybody. For me, I'd take this responsibility so seriously that to looking at, the taxpayer dollars that are coming in, We know that a lot of our employees do not get paid adequately for the way that they serve our city. And as our city manager talked about, that we have a large employee base, and in order to right size it for them, it's going to be a hard task to do that. And so for me, I cannot in good conscience pull our salaries out and ensure that we get ours fixed without being able to look at the full situation with all of our employees and the way that their salaries need to be fixed. I just cannot do that. I don't think that's right. I think we have to take care of our people before we take care of the board. And so, although I so appreciate you offering to do this, I'd be happy to look at this again when we're looking at our budget, and if we're able to do those raises that our employees so badly deserve and need, and we're able to do this as well, I'm happy to look at that. I know that means that it wouldn't go into effect until January 2025. And that's fine, right? We all did this to serve, not to, we know what we're getting into. So again, thanks for, offering this up, and I appreciate you for doing that. And for me, it's a no. But thank you for your offer.
Mayor, I appreciate it as well. But for me, it's going to have to be a no as well. And one of the reasons why is because I didn't get in this for the money. I was poor when I was growing up, and I saw things that I needed for communities that weren't being addressed. I'd rather be able to give and try to help out where some of our city employees are not adequately paid. For me, I have another job. And I've been hurt, to be honest with you, by having another job, because I can't take personal injury cases if it deals with like the Bowling Green Police Department, which I would get more money that way. But that's not the reason why I ran. I ran because I wanted to change certain things in this city and to make sure that we move forward. Right now, and when I listened to Mr. Meisel earlier, and he was talking about like the pay for our first responders, I can't in good conscience take a pay raise, or even for the next city commissioner to take a pay raise until other things are addressed. So at this moment, I have to be a no as well.
I will say to that it's obvious that Sue Perigin never was in this for the money. I've been here for 7+ years. I'm in my 8th year. I knew what the pay was when I came, and I know what the pay is today, and this has nothing to do with pay. What it has to do with is being able, just like every other department, to be able to recruit qualified individuals that expect to be compensated for a job, and this is a job. Run the tires off our cars. I'm on 14 million boards and commissions, and I don't begrudge any bit of it. But it's a huge commitment. It's a huge time commitment. It's a huge resource commitment. And if you figured it all up at the end of the day, we're probably giving. And it's hard to recruit people to come and do this job when the compensation is nowhere close to what it ought to be. So that's, and it's the next commission, and whether I'm on the next commission or not has nothing to do with my support for the mayor's proposal.
How many years have you served on the commission?
This is my 8th.
I don't think you're doing it for the money.
No.
All right.
No.
So, again, appreciate the comments, understand where everybody stands. Looks like it's going to be a 2-2 split. We can do the official in a second. However, one thing is, we're not doing this for ourselves. So the elected people get to figure it out, and y'all can figure out what's happening here. So y'all make the decision, because I will never see this raise in this mayorship at this point. Neither will any of these commissioners. So y'all make the right decision. So we'll leave it at that. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
No.
Beasley Brown.
No.
Alcott.
Yes. Municipal Order Number 2022-59.
Municipal order approving amendments to the City of Bowling Green procurement card policy and procedures, financial policies and procedures, and travel policies and procedures.
I'll move.
Second.
By Commissioner Perigin, second by Commissioner Beasley Brown. Mr. Meisel.
We've got 3 policies and procedures here that we are needing to just tweak and update that Katie's worked on. our financial policies and procedures, our travel policy, and what we call P cards, our procurement cards policy. Katie's here to answer any questions you might have on these changes. We won't go through all of them line by line or page by page, if that's okay.
Thank you, Mr. Meisel.
You're very welcome.
I'm sure I'm sorry, Katie. Any questions,
I
comments?
don't have any.
All right, roll call, please.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes. Municipal Order Number 2022-60.
Municipal order approving amendments to the City of Bowling Green Manual of Purchasing Policies and Procedures.
So moved.
Second.
By Commissioner Perigin, second by Commissioner Bailey. Mr. Meisel.
Another policy manual for our purchasing, and we are making some minor changes to streamline some purchases, to do away with some purchase order requirements. And again, Katie can answer any questions you might have on this one.
Trust you, Katie. All right. Roll call, please.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes. Municipal Order Number 2022-61.
Municipal order approving the reappointments of Jane Bartholomew and Linda Neal to the Hobson House Commission.
So moved.
Second.
By Commissioner Brown, second by Commissioner Perigin. This one's mine. I've had the lovely opportunity to talk to Jane and to talk to Linda. They're currently serving on the Hobson House Commission. They have a passion for this, and they love the Hobson House. And I'm going to give a little plug. There is an executive director, Brooke Westcott, that they've hired and have signed, and they're very excited about this. Maybe some of y'all, they've actually brought the original design to the house from 1872. So if you haven't gone in the house in a while, please do. Go out and see the Hobson House. The work that they've done is by far, they were so proud of it, and it is a jewel of our community. So please get out there and see the work that this commission has done, and especially Mrs. Westcott. They sing her praises, and I'm very proud of these ladies and what they are doing to represent and bring this crown jewel to our community and keep it fresh. Any questions?
I agree, Todd. I go to the Hobson House quite often by invite for events and things, and they are just passionate about it. And Brooke happens to be a young person that has a passion for history, and being able to replicate what that house looked like in the ceilings and everything is pretty amazing. It's a great place to go, especially this time of year, as the flowers are coming up and the grounds are so beautiful. So, absolutely.
Roll call, please. I'm sorry, any other?
I'm good.
Roll call.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes. Municipal Order Number 2022-62.
Municipal order approving the reappointment of John Sims to the Urban Growth Design Review Board.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Beasley Brown, second by Commissioner Perigin. Again, this is me. I've talked to Mr. Sims. He's been serving on the Urban Growth Design Review Board. He has rave reviews, and he wants to continue serving. And someone that has done this, I thank him for his service, and I recommend him for reappointment. Any questions? Okay. Roll call, please.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes. Ordinance Number BG 2022-14. First reading is non-binding.
Ordinance amending Code of Ordinances. Ordinance amending Chapter 2 Administration of the City of Bowling Green Code of Ordinances related to work sessions.
So moved.
Second. Mr. Meisel, I would like you to comment on this, but I'm going to turn this one over to Sue for comments.
Yeah, thank you. I think we just needed to clear up what our policy has really traditionally been for our different kinds of meetings that we have. Obviously, these meetings occur the first and third Tuesdays at 4:30 at City Hall. We have special called meetings also that either three of the commissioners or the mayor can call. And then we have these work sessions that traditionally have been three or more commissioners or the city manager polling the commissioners to see whether or not we wanted to take up a specific item. For example, the EDC that we're going to be talking about tonight. That we all, either we have consensus or majority, agree that that's something that's important enough to engage the community in. Obviously, the community is welcome at these meetings. We have lots of ways to give input, lots of ways to speak to us. I take calls and emails and texts and things all day long. So we appreciate the community engaging with the commission. But these work sessions are designed to bring something forward that we're thinking of, and there's never any procedural votes or anything like that on it, but it's really clarifying. And Jeff, do you want to speak to that? Just a kind of a cleanup?
Yeah, sorry, I shouldn't say yeah, yes, ma'am. My mom would get me on that one. Anything we do is, like anything, I can't go with just one directive on whether it be a policy change or a code of ordinance or anything like that. We operate in 3, so majority, and this is no different. I felt like this has always been a little vague when it says used to say the Board of Commissioners may request to hold a work session. Well, a prime example is this EDC that we're getting ready to talk about for the second time. If we hadn't had 3 of you the first meeting to say, yeah, we need to have another work session, if there only been 1 of you and the rest of you no interest, it's a waste of time. So this is just a clarification, a cleanup. I think it's a good change, and it aligns with everything else that we do as far as you all coming to me with something. I need 3 of you to come to me with something as far as policy, a code change, anything major. Now you call me and you tell me there's a pothole, I can call Greg and we can fix a pothole or a stop sign that's down, but anything else, I need 3. I need 3 votes, 3 consensus to move and take action on it as a manager and to delegate it to my staff. So that's all I need.
Comments? Dana?
So this is definitely an important thing to, I think through. So just to clarify, we don't have the power as an individual commissioner to put something on the agenda. 3 of us have to agree to have something be put on the agenda.
Oh, not if you are sponsoring an ordinance or a municipal order, then I think one of you can. Correct.
Right. So it's my understanding that this is aligned with our authority as commissioners to be able to direct important things that we believe our community needs to make decisions on and have discussions over. I believe that work sessions, and we've seen, with this EDC, that work sessions are incredibly important because it's our one way of learning about and talking about issues that are important in our community in a way that is public and transparent. And there may be really important things that a commissioner has been elected to address that may not have 2 other commissioners' support. And I think it's really important. There's not 100 of us up here. There's only 5. And just like it's important that as commissioners that we have the authority to sponsor items, which is what we were elected to do, to put forward issues and decisions that will help make an impact. And then at that point, right, the decision out of that has to be at least 3, and then the staff can act. I think it's really important that we retain the ability for commissioners to be able to sponsor a work session on the agenda to talk about issues that their constituents have elected them to bring forward and to address. So, I believe if this went forward, it would just decrease transparency in decision-making and would hinder the opportunity for citizens to participate in local government, and therefore I cannot support this proposal. Thank you.
For me, it's likewise. As Mr. Meisel has said first he said that I would need all 3. And I know in the past, kind of like sponsoring an agenda that's coming on there, you don't need all 3, you need just 1. But you need all 3 to basically vote it in for it to actually to pass. And I think that this would limit basically a commissioner being able to bring something forward for whatever constituency that's out there. Now, whether it passes, yes, you do need all 3. I do also believe that The transparency issue, once we have a work session, will be very limited, and it's happened in the past. So then if the transparency is not there, whatever happened in that room is only the people that were in that room will know and stuff. And then it's word of mouth, and we've seen how that goes. So with that, because of that, my position is a no as well.
So,
I
go ahead, Sue.
I just want to clarify something. All of our meetings, except the closed session meetings, every one of our meetings and our retreats are open to the public, and they're recorded. So you can, transparency, that's a great buzzword, it's wonderful, but we are transparent. We're just not going to waste a whole lot of time when there just isn't you can put any agenda item you want. Anything can go on the agenda by any individual commissioner. So if your constituents are saying, hey, I want to talk about this particular item, put it on the agenda. I try to get 3 votes, but there's a lot of times people know they don't have 3 votes, and they put it on the agenda anyway to get community input. There's processes, and there's nobody hiding anything. This is a cleanup of, it says the Board of Commissioners. What does that mean? In most cases, it means either a majority or a consensus of the Board of Commissioners. That's what it says. So cleaning this up is helpful to staff, where there's not any gray areas. We clearly understand what it takes. And so I'm going to be, obviously I'm sponsoring it, so I'm going to be supportive of it. My 2 cents.
Just have one more clarifying after that. So we cannot, as Board of Commissioners, meet more than 2 at a time. So if this were to be put in place, and let's say, let's just take affordable housing. We could only, as commissioners, meet 2 at a time to learn about and meet with folks to work towards figuring out solutions for this. Or we could even stick with the EDC. So if we, weren't able to do this in public, it's our only forum where all 5 of us are allowed to sit through and learn together, to ask questions together, and to figure stuff out. And I think it does impact our ability to do that if we take this away, because otherwise you're having to piecemeal it, and I think it makes it more difficult for us to learn from each other, work together, and think about the solutions that maybe at first some folks may not understand or be against at the beginning, but once we learn about it together and we can think through it together and ask questions, that we can move forward in ways that I think having to do it piecemeal, 1-on-1 and 2-on-2, and in behind closed doors makes it harder. And so, although I understand your point, I do think that it moves it from this ability to work together and learn in a public forum with full transparency. It does push us to have to do that behind the scenes.
And Dana, we do have public forums. We just had the public forum on homelessness, correct?
Yep, that was a work session.
Go ahead.
So here's a picture that's being painted. It's like, I can't put agenda item on there because I'm an elected official. But here's what I want the public to understand. We can work 1-on-1 with commissioners. And I'll, as a leader of this commission, I have done that multiple times. And that's my job. That's my work. That's my responsibility. It's not me up here platforming to the public. And here's what I want the public to understand. If I come up here as a single entity and say, hey, Mr. Meisel, guess what you're going to be working on this week? Because the homeless and affordable housing working session took hours, literally. Ashley ran around the clock. The entire city worked. When we do something as a single commissioner, we put that levy onto the city to accomplish and work in multiple hours. Tonight, you're going to hear about the Arts and Entertainment District, the EDC. Brent has spent hours and hours. Talia spent hours and hours. We're putting work on them. So when we come up here with our agenda items, because we do, we have agenda items. We ran on something, and we say, hey, public, this is important to me, and I'm going to go take care of you. We come up here and we say, we're going to have a working session. And I don't care what the other 4 say. I don't care if I can get it done or not. I don't care if I do the work and the diligence to work with each commissioner 1-on-1 to arbitrate and to try to convince them and compel them and maybe even compromise. to be able to figure out, hey, what am I going to do as your elected official, or just come up here in a platform and say, here's my items. Because if we don't do this, you could have 30 items, 30 working sessions, and each one of us could put all of our agenda items on there. But the city doesn't have to work that item. Mr. Meisel does not have to work his team around the clock because a single commissioner gets to say, here's my agenda items. If we want to do that, we haven't. But this is what we're trying to prevent because this is coming up. We've had commissioners say, here, this is going on in the press, I don't understand it, but this is what we're going to do. And we're like, wait, time out. Let's get the facts first. Let's talk to each other. Let's work with each other. Which commissioner have you talked to? Who has actually heard what's the right information? And let's come together to see if this is something we should put on a working item. Because the one we're talking about is, the police pay, and a lot of misinformation was out there. Well, we have 500 employees. Everyone's concerned about their pay. And we, as a city commissioner in a strategic meeting, all 5 of us said we're going to work with all of our operational chiefs to figure out what is necessary for our city. And so we're committed to that. We're going to do that. And we are going to put that up. But it's not a single entity. It is all of our pay entity. So we have to work. We have to do our due diligence. We can't just say, hey, public, this isn't transparent because my important item is not getting put on the platform. I want people to understand we have a job, we have a responsibility, we are elected, you hold us accountable. But when we levy our work onto the city and we have a working session, it takes an inordinate amount of work for them to prepare and come prepared tonight, just like you're going to hear on the EDC in the Arts and Entertainment District. We're working together, we're compromising, we're figuring this out, and we're doing this in public forum and transparency. Thank you.
To clarify, sometimes we don't hear everything that's on the agenda, or it's not always shared with us until we finally get the agenda, who's sponsored with us. So I know for me, for one, at least there's certain agendas that get on the agenda, but we don't see it later, so whoever sponsored it. So that's first. The one thing is that for transparency, it's not my agenda that I want to put on there. It will be the public's agenda that I want to put on there. And if it gets voted down, then so be it. I lost that vote, but at least that voice is there. Every person that lives here in Bowling Green, Kentucky, should basically have a right to sit at the table and have their agenda addressed, whether it passes or not. That's the thing. So transparency, we want to make sure that it's transparent for everyone. We work for you guys. So I want to make sure that it's transparent and what's going on is going to be for you guys. And if I lost the vote, so be it.
That's what we're discussing.
Right. Again, every commissioner here has the ability to put an agenda item on the agenda. It doesn't take 3. It's an agenda item to be voted on. So if a constituent wants you to bring something forward, you have that mechanism to do that.
And you do get the items. We get them at the same time the public. It goes out on Thursday. You have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and even Tuesday to work that agenda item. And that has been the way our city's done business for I don't know how long.
Well, respectfully, Mayor, you just said earlier that basically we would go and talk to other ones, and basically we're sponsoring an agenda. The agenda that Commissioner Perigin had submitted, she didn't talk to me about it.
That's
No,
your agenda
I know I'll let you talk, but the first thing is that
Thank you.
it was not addressed to me. So the first time I saw it was that Thursday. She never called me once about it. So if you're asking about like sponsoring an agenda, and what the mayor has just said is basically that we all go and we talk to one another and make sure that we can try to convince them and try to negotiate and see where we can agree. I didn't hear about this agenda until I got my book on Thursday.
I didn't get a call either.
You're sponsoring it. It would have been respectful just to give me a call about it.
All right. Roll call, please.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
No.
Beasley Brown.
No.
Alcott.
Yes. Ordinance number BG 2022-10, second reading binding.
9. I'll do 9 first.
Sorry, thank
It's
you.
okay.
That's
Ordinance-
9.
Ordinance rezoning real estate. Ordinance rezoning a tract of land containing 0.17 acre from GB General Business to RM4 multifamily residential located at 0 State Street, presently owned by Robert E. Petrie Testamentary Trust, George D. Lawson Jr., trustee with Robert and Vicky, it is Shadowan, correct, as the applicants.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Perigin, second by Commissioner Beasley Brown. Ms. Mizel. Oh, sorry.
Second reading.
This is our second reading. It was a 5-0 vote from last commission. Unless there's any more questions. All right. Roll call, please.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes. Ordinance number BG 2022-10, second reading is binding.
Ordinance rezoning real estate. Ordinance rezoning a tract of land containing 0.8663 acre from RS1A Single Family Residential and RM2 Two Family Residential to RS1C Single Family Residential located at 2410 Fitzgerald Industrial Drive, presently owned by Elijah Properties LLC.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Brown, second by Commissioner Perigin. This is also a 5-0 vote. Unless there's any questions or comments? None? Roll call, please.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes. Ordinance number BG 2022-11, second reading is binding.
Ordinance relating to budget amendment. Ordinance approving amendment number 3 to the City of Bowling Green, Kentucky annual operating budget for fiscal year 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Perigin, second by Commissioner Bailey. Mr. Mizel. Oh, sorry. Here we
Second
are
reading
again.
binding.
This was 5-0. Any questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Perigin.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Alcott.
Yes. Now we will begin our work session on the Arts and Entertainment District. And we know we have public here. The public here, as I learned last time, does not have to sign in for the comments, which comes later. So if you're for comments, that comes after this session. However, if you are wanting to weigh in after we have that open up, right, Brent?
Mayor,
Mr. Childers?
can we take like a 60-second break?
I think that'd be great. Let's take a 2-minute break. Thank you. Sorry, Raina. We are back live. We are beginning the working session. Mr. Childers, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Appreciate the opportunity to come back before you this evening and talk about Entertainment Destination Center and really talk about another opportunity to advance and grow business and economic activity in our downtown. And so I won't go over everything that I talked about at the last meeting, save everyone some time from that. I know that there are several people here that have opinions that they might want to share, and many of them were in attendance in the stakeholder meeting. But I do want to try to frame the conversation in some way, so hopefully we can continue to move forward in that. And so one of the things I wanted to talk about is what we presented at the last work session meeting was really a starting point. And so I wanted to kind of focus in on a few options that we see and some other things that we went back and looked at in the last 2 weeks. And so one of the options to consider for the commission as they move forward in the decision-making process is the triggering events. If you recall, we talked about special events. We defined what those special events were. And so we went back and actually looked at what that looks like. So this is a month-by-month percentage breakout of what those are. Luckily, I left the chart on my desk, so I don't have those actual data points, but you can kind of see the trend line there. And so what this is, and we didn't have this whenever we started, Talia put this together really right before the stakeholder meeting, and so we took the events that we know of that are planned to occur in the downtown area that we say would trigger the EDC under the current parameters. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate that. Somebody comes prepared. And so we wanted to see what that would actually look like. And our assumption was that in what we're calling in-season months, April through October, that percentage would be higher. There's only so many Fridays and Saturdays in an entire year, so how many days could this hit? And then we saw that drop off as you hit November, December, back around January and February. As we did that, we also realized that maybe there was another triggering event that we didn't first include, and that was Soki Marketplace, which is really an outdoor covered event venue at this point. Yes, they have a farmer's market, but it's also home to our ice rink every winter. It's also home to, it's a default home to some concerts because it is rain protected. And so, also at the stakeholder meeting, there was talk about the community-wide side of it. And so we wanted to go back and look at that, but just give a little bit of, based on the known events that would trigger this, with the expectation that more events will come online. Okay, so this number will increase. This is just what we know at this point. The in-season percentage is 65% and out-of-season percentage is 26%. So 2/3 of the available days in season, it would already be triggered under the current parameters. And the reason we wanted to look at this was because at some point, it's active so much, it's not worth having a trigger. It creates more confusion to say, oh, it's Friday, not Saturday, or it's next Saturday, but not this Friday. It's so frequent that it becomes de facto active. And so it's easier to just say Friday, Saturday, as opposed to these off and ons. Our highest month was actually in July at 90%, because once you hit in that June, July, August, you have concerts in the park on Friday nights, Hot Rods games. The way that they do the scheduling now is Tuesday through Sunday, so you're going to hit Friday, Saturday whenever they're at home. It's just if they have an off week. So in looking at the expanded activities, so this would include Soki, and this would include community-wide, these larger events where we could draw tourists into the downtown area. This is just for exploratory sake. Definitely changes the impact in the November, December. It really doesn't change much through the summer months because many of those days would have been active by some other event. So the impact is really in the November, December. So the in-season activity then goes to 77%, and the out-of-season activity is 63%. And so I bring this up to give you an option. The option would be you continue to use what we had first talked about with the special event triggering, or you look at, hey, the frequency of this is great enough that Friday and Saturday by fault are going to be active throughout the year. And then in the winter months, in those off-season months, the demand is going to be less just based on the weather anyways, and the lack of foot traffic and activity in the downtown area. So that's one option that I think you should consider as you make your decision. Another option is time. We recommended a time, 11 to 10 o'clock as part of that triggering event. We believe that there should be a time component. Whenever we met with the focus group, that's where we kind of came up with that 10 o'clock cutoff. We went back and forth on where that line should be. But another thing to consider after the comments that you heard at the last meeting was that transition point of downtown. One of the things that I heard is, many of the downtown businesses weren't as concerned with that. Right now it's 6:30 crowd. It's really as you get to that transition point in downtown where it begins to tip over. So what is that transition point? Is 10 too close to that? So you could look at backing it up to 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock is kind of is where you're getting into the exit time for a lot of the destinations, like the end of a baseball game, you're getting into the end of a Sky Pack show, the end of maybe something at the Capitol. That's the end of where you're starting to see that end of the dinner hour, that type of thing. So maybe 9 is more appropriate than 10. That's an option for you all to consider as part of this. Just because I presented it to you doesn't mean it has all the right answers. I think y'all are well versed in telling me I have several wrong answers. So that is one. Another one to consider is area. We heard a lot and we talked through, how we came up with this area. The area is not as clean as we would love it to be. We wish it was more symmetrical, but that's not where the establishments are. So we had to work with the parameters that we have, and we could, go back and evaluate, or you all could say, hey, take these blocks out. But at some point, it becomes so cumbersome to navigate what is this area that it's harder to educate people on what the area is. So our goal was to try to keep it as squared off as we could and understand where are the destinations, the premises, but also where are the drivers. So that would be your hot rods or your Sky Packs or your Circus Squares or those types of things. Where are people going to go have dinner and then go to the destination? So where is the movement of people? And where is that potential future movement of people? And that's how we came to this area. There are a couple of these blocks that probably won't have any of the actual activity, but then you start cutting and sorting this and the shape becomes even more irregular. So we were trying to have it as a shape that would be as regular and as conceivable and include the attractions and the destinations all the same. So that is another option to consider. One other thing that we heard was underage drinking as part of this. And of course, it is still, the city would not be in the serving of alcohol business. That would still be the licensed premises that would be responsible for that. But I don't think the concern is on our licensed premise serving underage. It's the transfer of that to an underage person just because they had a cup. So we went back and looked, and we found another community that they had done the wristbands. So that way, as they were carded before they left, there was a wristband. So that's another option to consider. So then the police officers are looking for the wristband. It doesn't stop that a police officer still couldn't stop somebody and try to ID them. If they felt like that person was underage, they probably might not stop me because I don't think I look underage anymore. I didn't look underage whenever I was underage, so it isn't much different. So those are options. One of the other things we heard from you all, and based on some of the comments, was what do people even want to participate in this? So we started going out and we started asking questions. We reached out. We pulled 22 licensed business premises in this area. 14 said yes, 4 said no, 3 were undecided, and 1 didn't reply. So that was a personal contact, either through phone or in person, but that Talia made to get that response of, do people want this? Do people want to participate? Because I'm sure for you all there is a concern that if people don't want to participate, then what's the point in doing it? I understand that side of it too. So I wanted to provide you with that information.
Sorry,
Now,
just real quick. That was the ones I have liquor license, that was the.
Licensed premise.
Okay,
22 polled, that's the ones we identified. 14 yeses, 4 nos, 3 undecided, and 1 no reply. I think that adds up to 22. I'm not doing public math, so. That, in essence, is the EDC. So you all, as the policymakers and the ordinance makers, have to decide which of those options that you would like to see, and then which of those options do you think is the best bet for us moving forward. So our task, and the task that was given to me, was to go forth, research, and present back an EDC plan, an EDC project for this community, and talk with people in the downtown area. So we've held a focus group, a stakeholder group, and now this is our second work session to discuss this topic. We've given you an area, we've given you the plan, we've given you the triggers, and then now 4, I think, option areas where I think that there's flexibility for you all to kind of make this what it is. Also, yesterday, or this morning, my intent was to send it yesterday, but this morning I sent you all an email with a list of, I don't know, maybe a dozen articles from different states and different places. So this is a concept that is growing across the country. This is a concept of EDCs or DORAs or CORAs or whatever that each state calls them, that provide economic opportunity, leisure opportunities, and creates a sense of place and vibrancy and community. I think we all share the same goal of wanting downtown to be the best that our downtown can be. I think the people sitting behind me share that same goal and that same vision. We might disagree on how to get there, but I think we all share that same common goal as a community. And this is one way that we can achieve that. We believe that we can achieve that by creating this vibrancy and creating an opportunity. Now, some of the comments that you heard last week, some of the comments that we heard at the stakeholder meeting, and I'm sure some of the comments that you're going to hear tonight are going to talk about yes, but. And that yes, but is really about, here's the things that we are experiencing in and around the downtown. And so my role in this was to bring forth to you all an EDC, an opportunity, and that's where my focus is. Now, there are other staff and the city manager, we've all talked about what that yes, but part could be. But that's really a bigger and separate conversation from the EDC. That's going to require other decisions and other conversations and other things to focus on that side. And really the EDC is about this area. Do we want to do this? If you all decide yes, then what are the parameters of this, which has been laid out before you with some options to tweak. So I want to make sure that we can try to kind of focus these two conversations that are going to overlap and intertwine as much as possible so that we can move forward as part of this discussion.
Mayor. So,
Go ahead.
to kind of steer this a little bit, so we can discuss more of what Brent said, or we can come back to that. I've got 4 department heads here tonight that have done research on the stories and complaints we heard about noise, cleanliness, police presence, and a couple other things. If you want to hear about that, what we found out from other places before it's whichever direction you want to move with this, we can go either way. So I want to just throw that up for you.
Well, Mr. Childers, I appreciate the tee up. So it's basically the same. However, what we discovered is that the problems that persist were the cautionary efforts for moving forward. And I think we all sense that. But what's most important is that, as we move forward, that we have solutions for these existing problems. And they're not just, because this is an opportunity for us to learn from each other. But I really am interested in some of those solutions. So I'd like to hear on the cleanliness first, and then possibly the noise and the police presence put together.
I'd like to ask Greg Meredith and Brent Belcher to come up, Public Works Director and Parks Director. They've done some studying and research, and have some things that they can offer. So, guys.
Greg and I, thank you. I'm the Belcher part. This is the Meredith part. Yeah. So just understand, obviously we spoke with Owensboro. Understand different communities they operate differently. So how Owensboro does maintenance of public areas is not exactly the same way we've done things. I'll put it directly, the Parks Department in Owensboro actually does not do maintenance. It's Public Works there. That's all maintenance, whether it's on parks land or not. So it doesn't transfer really easy to kind of discuss how we would adapt, if that makes sense. Because here, the way we do things is actually Public Works does not do trash. We do trash as a Parks Department because we have trash cans on our parks lands. So just to give you an idea of kind of how we evolve things, just a separation of how we've operated. I think both of us would tell you that we clean, they clean streets and sidewalks, and we clean sidewalks and roadways that are within parks, but we rarely come out of the parks areas to do those things. And in downtown currently, we, as the Parks Department, maintain Fountain Square Park and Circus Square Park and Heritage Trail that connects those two. So we actually work our way down through that. You've seen, the best example I can give you of that is Lights Up Downtown Bowling Green. That entire event is set up by Parks Maintenance, Landscape Division within Parks. Of the parks, the Heritage Trail, the decorations, all those things are put up. Some of those are on the sidewalks. The street lamps are on the sidewalks or the streets of the public street. We actually are doing that, if that makes sense. So the first thing is it's not a clear deviation from Owensboro and Bowling Green as far as how we've operated. I'll also say that we currently do trash 7 days a week in Fountain Square Park and Circus Square Park. But understand that doesn't necessarily mean we are emptying every trash can 7 days a week. You know, we're doing a trash run, we're checking trash cans and those that had to be emptied. Under this, at least current presentation, I think it'd be fair to say that you'd probably be emptying a trash can every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, every Saturday, Sunday, Monday type of thing. And the other days, it's probably a check to see what has to be removed and what doesn't have to move on 7 days a week. The boundaries have to be designated, but we're kind of thinking, we obviously would have to increase trash cans to do that boundary, right? So whatever that number comes out to be, whether it's, we can make 20, 30, 40, we don't really know because the boundary's not set yet. Once it's set, we can make a much more educated decision on how many we're looking at. But if it's 30 trash cans, that's a lot more work for somebody to empty 30 trash cans on a regular basis, right? Also understand that trash cans, actually emptying of a trash can is probably the easier part. The picking up the debris that doesn't get in the trash can is the much more difficult part. So I'll leave it at that, because that to get debris into the trash can, emptying the actual trash can is the easier part of the two things. It takes much more time to get debris in the trash can than it does to empty the trash can.
Brent, you're stating that there's 30 additional trash cans.
That is
our estimate?
That's just a wild estimate based on a current boundary. Honestly, we haven't looked, I can't, that's not scientific, that's just our initial
Given the
blush
generics
guess.
of
Yes.
that. I understand. Thank you.
Yeah, and let me start out by not advocating to change the model that we have for the Owensboro model. I like parks taking care of what they do. But on a serious note, we did reach out to Owensboro. I talked to their public works director, and I think Brent maybe said this at the first meeting or one of the stakeholder meetings, that they really didn't see a big change based upon, they had the riverfront, downtown, the venues, the hotels before the EDC came in, and so they didn't see a big change. Some of the things that they did a little differently than what we do is they had somebody kind of monitoring during the weekend events, the trash cans. Like you said, you don't empty those every day or every 3 days even. And they didn't for the most part either, but they had somebody checking to make sure that they were in good shape. and not overflowing and not becoming a nuisance. And it depends on the kind of event
So
that you
someone
have.
was on the clock during that
Someone
event,
was on the clock in
specifically for the
Owensboro.
EDC purpose.
They were, yes, up until a certain time, 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and it varied on, the night and the event, et cetera. And of course, again, when you have an event with food that's being served, you're going to generate more trash.
They found that necessary?
They found it necessary, that's what they'd done. I don't know if they did that before the EDC. He really didn't mention that. He didn't say if it was a new thing.
But to be successful.
To be successful, they had, again, with their parks folks that were doing or their public works folks, doing that, they didn't say whether it was a new change based upon the EDC.
So if we did this, it would be a change from the way we do business today, which is Monday through, or 7 days a week, but it's specific hours. But if we were to follow this recommendation, we would have someone to purposefully be there to gauge and help remediate that situation.
Our current schedules are early morning hours after the nighttime, right? We're talking 6 a.m. to noon roughly, type of trash runs. Really, it's to get back by 10 a.m. to be blunt.
So we would need someone from basically maybe like 4 o'clock to 11 p.m.
I'd hazard a guess on that because you're probably cleaning up a mess that's really not created yet. Because, what's the better time to
Well, we're starting at
create a
11.
mess?
I gave some.
What's the better time to clean up the mess? Is it 6 a.m. or, if that makes sense, a mess that's created at midnight and you leave it till 4 p.m. or 6 a.m.?
Because it's an event.
Yeah. Now, we have, there's been events that currently we have park staff, like the International Festival is a large event, right? We have staff throughout that entire event that is they're doing nothing but trash the entire event. We do not leave the premises during that event. Concerts in the park, we actually do not have staff presently on the site throughout the entire time of concerts in the park.
So one of the major concerns was trash, and so having more trash receptacles helps, and having someone to monitor that helps. The other issue was restrooms. Do you have some suggestions to mitigate this situation?
We did not explore, I didn't explore with the Public Works Director what his opinion was or what we need to do in support of that. That's more of a larger decision, I think.
I spoke with Owensboro City Manager. They do put out porta potties for the large events and take them back up, so.
If I may say, that's exactly what we do for our events.
Yeah.
The International Festival has porta potties. Concerts in the park may have porta potties. An event located on our premises would be required to have porta potties to meet the expectation of the participation they're going to have.
So anticipating we're doing this as an event specific, is that our recommendation?
So let's say we host 4 events throughout the year, which is kind of always been our target. Agree? So on those 4 events, let's take Harvest Fest in October. We're going to put out porta potties and extra bathrooms for that event that we're hosting.
Because we're the event organizer.
Yeah, and we're anticipating 5,000 to 10,000 people downtown, so we're going to do that.
So a large rental, let's say anything else besides the International Festival, a second large rental that has 5,000 people, whomever puts that on from the public, they would be the event organizer and be responsible for the porta potties at that point, for the event at Circus Square anyway.
But I don't foresee, if there's not a scheduled planned event for either one of the parks, and let's say it's just a ball game night or a Sky Pack night, I really don't see the need in putting out porta potties for just normal weekend traffic, but I may be wrong.
So some of the things we're talking about, trash receptacles help out, period, dot, because we wouldn't be retreating those and putting them out for event specific.
That's a definite.
Okay.
Those are permanent locations
So
based upon
they can help.
the premises that would, we're not putting by residential.
Right, just like in my high school, if there's not a trash receptacle, I pick up trash.
Yeah.
And so people take the least path and they just dispose of it. But if there's trash receptacle, there's a chance it could make it there. But I did hear from our public that there's a current issue, and I'm not suggesting or stating that this is a solution, but maybe we could have a scaled version that helps out the current issue with porta johns or porta potties, and maybe we have a scaled response for what we think are larger crowds. But there could be something that we could look at on a more permanent basis to help the current situation that exists downtown.
I think the current situation will be unrelated to the EDC and the hours of the EDC. I think the current situations occur from 10 and 11 o'clock on till 2 o'clock in the morning. So with that being said, we'll definitely consider extra porta potties if necessary. The thing I do, going back to trash though, one thing I do want to clarify and make sure everybody's on the same page with is that we are not responsible for private property parking lots that we do not own. We cannot put our crews on private property for cleanup. And I hate to say that, and maybe people are cutting across private property to get to one destination to another and dropping a can or a bottle or cup, but I hate to say that that's something we cannot cover. We can only cover right-of-ways, sidewalks, streets, and the parks. And with that said, is we've got sidewalk leases in some cases, and within those sidewalk leases, those property owners are responsible for the cleanup of that area of the sidewalk that they've leased as well. And we have good success with that for the most part, but there are a few times where that hasn't been 100%, and we need to work on that a little bit. But I just want to make sure that we're only talking about cleanup and pickup of trash along public sidewalks, public parks, and the public streets. We're not talking about behind buildings that are private property, private parking lots, that sort of thing.
Let me add in, maybe this is inferred, but once again, our comparison to Owensboro is they have a dedicated staff for their district.
And
We
Brent,
presently do not.
I understand that this dedicated staff, and I've been down there several times, and it's a great little thing, is in a vehicle like a souped-up golf cart, a mule, I think you'd call it, that they are logoed. So the other part of that does help there is that person is an ambassador. It's somebody that you can approach and ask a question. Maybe you want to know where this is or where that is or what's going on. And so that's, in addition to being there to help to keep it clean, they're also an ambassador for the district.
It's been very helpful, Commissioners, this our opportunity.
Before moving on to other.
Right, we haven't gone into the noise or the police presence,
Okay.
but
Go ahead, Carlos, were you going to ask something?
It was probably more so for Brett, but he said there was 22 and 14, but he said there's a yes but no. Out of those 14, how many were like yes but no? Yes, but.
You're about the yes, but?
Yeah.
So the yes, but was more a comment about the conversation of the last meeting. They were yeses as part of this, that yes, that they would plan to participate if this is approved. My yes, but comment was a summary of the comments that you heard at the last meeting, where people were generally okay when you think about, like now at the 6:30, 7 o'clock hour. It was about that transition point and about the issues that they're already experiencing downtown related to noise, trash, safety, security. That's what the yes but was. It wasn't in relation to the poll.
I got you. My last question would be just a call, not for you, Brett. I apologize, brother. It'd be for, I guess, Mr. Meredith and Mr. Belcher. The cost of the porta potties and the cost basically to have someone there from the time frame to make sure that we're keeping everything clean on our city or the public property. Do we have what that would look like?
On the porta potties, I could provide that, but that would be based on obviously the number of porta potties you're looking at. Though we have a contract provider for the porta potties, so that's a set, we can provide that pretty quickly. I do not have that for you today, but once again, currently we are only buying porta potties when it's our event. When it's somebody else's event, they're getting their own porta potties. We're just telling them, based on the number of people they expect, you have to have this many. And we're actually telling them the location they can put them. Because right now, when we do a porta potty at Circus Square, they're putting them on Heritage Trail, which is it's a sidewalk, it's a greenways. That's why we don't want it there 7 days a week, because if you take that away, it's not an ADA sidewalk anymore for the public to use as a long-term investment, I put it. But, so we're only doing that for Harvest Fest. If we don't even have them for the Harvest Fest, I don't think, but then it's for our events. That's it. As far as for staffing, so yeah, it would be an additional cost, because we would be taking a staff currently from another location, another responsibility, and reallocating them at this point without additional staff. So it's the cost of additional employees is what it is.
We don't know what that looks like yet.
We don't know, because we don't know the size of the district. We don't know the size of the district and the amount of time it would take to clean that district. I don't have that for you right now.
Hypothetically speaking, if there is something that triggers and it's at SkyPack or something, but we keep it at the proposed size that we have, how would, I guess, SkyPack, if the triggering event is SkyPack, would pay for those porta potties that's going to be located all around the area that is proposed right now? Would they have to have a porta potty located all around there? Or
Not necessarily, because their event would probably be located in the facility of SkyPack, so they would have restrooms there. If they rented Circus Square, then yes. If they plan on having their event in Circus Square, then yes, they would have if Circus Square was the center of their event and that's where their event was going to be held, then yes, they'd get porta potties there. But if their event was going to be held in SkyPack, they probably wouldn't need a porta potty.
Well, for EDC purposes, I know one of the concerns is cleanliness and having, I guess, like some type of trash cans or something that's there. If SkyPack is the triggering event, could that possibly create a problem where trash is going to be left out and we're not going to be able to collect it? Or there's going to be a possible problem that people who are going to be not next to SkyPack, where they're going to be able to use the restroom at? I think that they were saying that last time that we had an infrastructure problem with people using the restroom. So how would that be proposed? They have to go all the way back to SkyPack to use the restroom?
In my opinion, if SkyPack's hosting the event, then the crowd is at SkyPack, right? And let's say you have a percentage of that group that breaks away and goes somewhere else,
Right.
to other properties, wherever that property may be. There would be nothing at Circus Square going on, I'll put it that way, to host anybody. If there was something going on, an event, a secondary event going on, you got SkyPack with an event, maybe there's a secondary concert or something going on at the concert or in the Circus Square, at that point, I would believe you'd probably have porta potties. Additional receptacles, the only reason you have additional receptacles, we believe, would because we're talking about the boundaries of this would be more than Fountain Square and Circus Square.
Right.
SkyPack, most likely, without counting them directly, they probably have receptacles in front of SkyPack currently that would host whatever their traffic might be on their entryway. I don't foresee them needing more trash receptacles for an event that they would have. But if you're talking, we don't have those events yet, but if you're talking about an event at SkyPack in the ballpark and Circus Square and wherever else we could have the 2 and 3 legs of that, quite possibly we would need porta johns then and those receptacles. That's when I was talking about those. If we get to 30, I don't know, the trash receptacles, they would have to be strategically placed so that they would meet that need of traffic flow for that larger event that's more than just one facility. Does that help answer your question?
It does. The only thing is I was, I guess, wondering where would those, they be strategically placed and who will be responsible for it if the triggering event itself, even though that they leave from SkyPack and they go downtown a little bit more to the square.
I would think that would be on city staff to kind of decide the flow of traffic and where we feel like and maybe it might be, we have trash cans now placed at Fountain Square based upon where the sidewalks are, where we know traffic has been, where we probably had additional trash collected. So, we have a problem area, we may have learn that another trash can is needed in this area or something, but I think that would come from traffic flow and how we see the traffic is moving or the pedestrian traffic is moving.
Thank you.
So my questions, thank you all first for working on solving these problems that were, brought up in the last work session. I definitely, think it's a good thing that we have life downtown and that we are growing and there's folks coming downtown. And so these, part of it is, this is the whole point of why we're looking at the EDC, is that we're wanting to have a vibrant downtown, bringing people down here. But I think what the last work session revealed is that the infrastructure we have in place has not grown with the growth and the life that has come downtown. And so I'm going to try to separate my questions out to fixing these current issues that we're facing downtown separate from the EDC, just because I think these are needed, whether or not we vote in the EDC. So going to the bathrooms, did you all talk about how do we address this need that that the stakeholders have said downtown there's not enough public restrooms? This is needed separate from the EDC. Did you all look at a location close to Fountain Square or in between the two? Did we talk to Owensboro about, do they have porta potties downtown? Can you talk a little bit more about our options for providing more public restrooms, period? And I don't know, Jeff, I know you had that conversation with their city manager, so I don't know if that's something you wanted to address instead of them.
Our answer was more porta potties, basically. Owensboro, as I mentioned, for any large events, their barbecue fest, a lot of other things, they're putting out massive amounts of porta potties, just lining them up. So for the big events, when they're expecting, 5,000 to 10,000 people, you're going to need a lot more bathrooms. So again, other than that, they have not built any separate restrooms downtown from what they already had. They rely on the restaurants and bars for their restroom facilities, people coming out of there. But as far as festivals that the city is hosting, they're putting out porta potties to solve and meet.
So they don't have porta potties as part of their EDC infrastructure that they provide.
What's that? I'm sorry.
They don't put out porta potties on the weekends where they have events.
Not unless not unless they're expecting a large amount of people.
Okay. So have we talked at all about the issue arising that we don't have enough public bathrooms downtown, just in general, separate from the EDC?
We have not. I mean, it's a matter of whether you all want to build restrooms on Fountain Square. I don't like that idea personally. We would have to acquire property, I guess, downtown somewhere to put in public restrooms. I don't really have an answer for you. So what we have existing is not a good option to build more public restrooms.
We have parking lots in between Fountain Square Park and Circus Square Park that we could put some.
The only one we own is the old Steamers lot, and it's partially leased out. And I don't know, if y'all tell me you want to do that, we could look at that. But that's the only land we own between the two parks. Yeah.
Well, I would definitely love us to look at how can we increase the availability of public restrooms downtown, just because so many of our downtown stakeholders who have invested their businesses and are living down there have said that they're noticing that this is an issue that is harming the quality of life down there. So I think it's for me.
Did we take a poll similar to what we did with the people that are interested in the EDC?
Sure, yeah.
That'd be fair?
Mm-hmm.
To see how many would be interested? Talia, can you work on that? Thank you.
So in terms of trash, Can you talk again about the staff that Owensboro has and exactly what they do on EDC weekends and how many people there are and what they're doing, just so I can have in my mind the infrastructure they have in place?
I think, from what I understood, there was one assigned staff person that worked to ensure that cans were not overflowing, that they dealt with anything on the sidewalk that needed to be picked up, that was in the way or a detriment to whatever was going on. Obviously, trash on the sidewalk is. And if there were spills or anything that needed to be cleaned up within that time frame, that they could address that as well. So again, they didn't work beyond 9 or 10 o'clock whenever their EDC was over. And I think he said 9 o'clock is what he told me actually at night. So that's how they dealt with that.
And so just one
Just one person, yes.
Okay. Well, I think that, makes sense to me that we would have someone, if we have this, essentially this liquor license on the sidewalks, that we would have someone there to take care of it and make sure that it's a good, safe, fun place for people to enjoy downtown. So I would definitely like us to look and see if that's possible for us from a staffing standpoint. And then I'm grateful that y'all are looking at adding trash cans, and I think that's definitely needed. And looking at, I definitely think we'd want to keep our morning shift to clean up downtown from whatever happened after the EDC event, but also keeping it clean during it, I think would be
That's
helpful.
fine, and just, you'll have to reallocate or add a staff person to do that. Reallocate from a day shift, from, what they're doing on a sidewalk somewhere in a neighborhood or patching a pothole, et cetera. So that's what that's a cost, so we just have to know that.
Chief Delaney, would you please join us and talk to us about safety, the noise, and police presence in our response to what we've heard at the last and what we think is necessary for this to be successful?
Do you want to do noise first? Okay.
I can address noise. I'm going to tell you that noise is a whole nother separate topic. I don't know that it's something we can cover quickly tonight, but I have pulled some ordinances that I like the language in that we could talk about. I did go back and watch meetings from 2008 where the noise ordinance was changed. The city clerk pulled those for me. And it's a little bit of, it goes both ways. One of the conversations they had was, yes, we want to change the noise ordinance, but what if we ever do an entertainment district? We don't want that to apply downtown. We don't want to hurt the downtown businesses. So it's that weird situation where we're discussing noise downtown, and when they put this ordinance in place, one of their concerns was it affecting the businesses downtown. So you all would have to kind of weigh that. But I do think we can look at some language. We could certainly look at amplified sound downtown and change that, add that to our ordinance where we stop it at a certain time. But again, we have very many bar owners in here. I think that you all would want to include in that conversation. Some of those bars, I know we talk about the late night crew, the college kids, they don't come out till 10 or 11. So if you stop amplified music at 12, those bars are going to stay open until 2:30, whatever the ABC law allows. So they would need to be a part of that conversation. Food trucks generally are loud. They have to stop at midnight. However, we allow them downtown until 2:30 to hit that late night crew. So that's another thing that we could look at. I'm hesitant to do too much to the food truck ordinance. In the last legislative session, we had a legislator who proposed the state taking over food truck regulations, and they used our ordinance as an example. Said the city of Bowling Greens is too tough. This is why food trucks cannot have good businesses. So I don't want to do too much there, but we could look at that time. Again, that's something we would need to talk to downtown businesses. Do you all want those food trucks downtown past a certain time? The problem downtown is we have a mixed use, so I think there has to be some sort of collaboration between the property, the people that live downtown, and the businesses. But there are some things we can look at. quite frankly, whatever we do, we have to be able to enforce it. And the bottom line is we have a very big growing city. We have a police force that's short, and in those hours, noise is going to be one, it's going to go to the bottom of the call list. The other thing is that if you get people that are out late and the police can respond, the best way really to deal with that is a disorderly conduct rather than a citation for violation of a noise ordinance. So all things to think about. I don't know that we can solve this problem before we decide on an EDC, but there are things that you all can think about. I can send you some of the things that I was looking at, and I really recommend maybe talking to some of the business owners and people that live downtown to see what would be a happy medium. Because the same people that maybe don't want some of these other issues do want music until 2 or 2:30, some of the business owners. So it's kind of where we are on noise. I think it needs its whole own work session, maybe after we have enough people to enforce it.
Police presence. So I take full responsibility for that. The last 2 years have been very difficult and challenging for us all. There's been times where we've had anywhere between 2 to 14 people out infected with COVID, and our response has tried to be to keep our officers safe and keep the public safe. So the police presence downtown has not been what it should have been. We realize that, but as we start to get back to a new normal and try to address that issue, we've already started hearing from the stakeholders what they want to see from us, and we've already initiated a downtown extra patrol detail that will, it's already started last Friday and Saturday, but after getting some more information from the city manager, it appears Wednesday night is also a night that's a college crowd that's coming downtown. So we'll have additional police presence down there from 9 to 11, and then another detail starting from 1 to 3 to catch that late crowd of people coming and going and try to cut down on some of the calls and that volume of calls downtown. So that's on me, but we're going to do better as we move forward.
Those new 9 tonight, it takes 22 weeks, just a minimum, to get them with a mentor.
23 weeks and then 16 weeks of riding with somebody, so you'll see them next year.
We are short for a while, but Chief, you've been bearing a huge brunt and brought us through extreme challenges with the BG disaster as well as COVID, but we appreciate the extra force because a presence does make a difference, and we appreciate that effort. Thank you.
The questions?
So was Thursday night an issue too, or just Wednesday night? That seems kind of random.
We were just going to do Friday and Saturday, and then one of the business owners downtown sent some pictures and videos of a Wednesday night crowd. So we'll adjust those hours as we need to be. It'll be an overtime detail staffed by officers to make sure that that's their focus while they're working. Will be strictly downtown.
And that's in their cars, it's that walking or bikes, or kind of what's the vision?
A little bit of
for it?
both.
Okay.
I'd prefer more foot patrol. That way you can get out and make those community interactions the same way we sort of do concert in the parks. It's bicycles, but as the nights get longer and darker, they'll want to have a vehicle there in case they need to transport somebody. So.
All right, thank you, Chief. We're going to open up to, go ahead, sorry.
Sir.
For the size, what do you think that, I guess, in your opinion, to properly patrol the area for the EDC, what size area, starting out at least, will be more appropriate to have, and especially for the police presence?
Talking with Owensboro, their area is about the same size as the one that's been proposed here tonight, but one of the barriers that they have is a natural barrier, and it's the riverfront. Chief Elam expressed that the first 3 to 4 weeks every summer when they open up, they have some growing challenges educating new people on everything that's going to be allowed in the EDC. So he said the first 3 or 4 weeks it takes 4 to 6 officers down there just making a presence and being known, and then after that the burden lightens up and people conform to the rules.
Do we need at least 4 police in the area that's proposed, or can 2 properly patrol that area?
I think it really depends on the crowd. 10,000 people, 4 is not enough.
I got you.
You get a couple hundred people because it's concert in the park moving back and forth. That's what we do now is a couple guys girls on bike patrol. in the crowd. And we have a very compliant city when it comes to a lot of those things. So during the hours that's being proposed, it's not the late night hours of the college crowds between, 11 and 2 in the morning. So it's a different crowd that you're patrolling.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
We're going to open up to the public that's here. We know you have things to say, so time's come on up.
Good evening, Council. I've got copies of the letter that was sent to the Daily News, if you all would like to see those.
Sure.
Should I bring them on up?
Sure.
All right.
Just tell us your name.
My name is Duncan McKenzie. I'm a local bar owner. And just following up on something that was mentioned earlier with transparency was something I understood that was brought up initially was a focus group that we were not invited to as one of the, 22 liquor license holding representatives of the possible entertainment district, which was kind of rubbed us the wrong way in a certain sense because come to find out, it's especially hearing from Public Works and the city maintenance that a lot of these logistics that we have laid out before us in terms of how things are going to be taken care of when if this becomes a established thing here in Bowling Green, because we had time to do a focus group, but we didn't have enough time to address all the other elephants in the room, whether it be, could have been us at that meeting that could have voiced these opinions and have any of these things been taken into account of in terms of trash, law enforcement, city ordinances, possibilities of increase in crime, among many other things. And to follow up on what the City Works people were talking about, getting someone to use said garbage can can already be difficult with a sober person, and you start feeding people a few drinks, and they can't even hopefully they can't find their car keys. But I just think, someone who's worked in the bar industry for 8-9 years now, and having to deal with drunk people constantly, it's just, most of the time, the staff are the people taking care of the trash that is left in the establishment. And when that, is spread out to a 12-block plus area, it really starts to raise a lot of questions in terms of, like we've stated before, is the infrastructure really there to handle a situation like this? And when it comes down to what events are triggering this, something that was talked about at the initial meeting that we were involved in, not the last city council meeting, but that even off-site companies that are not in part of the entertainment district could also set up for, having the entertainment district activated, which kind of, in reference to what we were talking about earlier with SkyPack being a place that could be responsible for said public restrooms, who does it befall upon if an outside person is hosting said events? And I understand Talia has the job of coordinating said events, but in terms of the scale and scope of the entertainment district and how long it's going to last and when it can be activated, City Works mentioned that there's, they try to keep 4 major events on per year, and then you mix in the about 9 to 10, maybe more concerts in the park. And, you get about 13 to 14, maybe 15 city-sanctioned events. And I ask myself, it's like, is it absolutely necessary to have this entertainment district for just, perhaps an event a month? And when it comes into, clarifying between 10:30, 11, whenever this thing stops, another thing that I ask myself is, someone who's been in contact with intoxicated people frequently, is trying to tell them when, when things, kicking people out of a bar that's a weekly thing for us. So just getting to people to tell them to stop drinking at a certain time, I don't think that's it doesn't seem like a very feasible thing, but that's just my 2 cents. And in terms of these cups that will be distributed, I just, it's something that my business partner may have brought up last time, that I just don't see the utilization of that or the enforcement of that being executed. For instance, behind our establishment, we have people that do not frequent our bar, but they, once the weather starts warming up, will congregate in the Daily News parking lot and not even quote unquote tailgate. They literally are tailgating. And that's something that we've raised to Daily News, which they've helped enforce to a certain extent. But even with the police, getting them to even having 2 to 4 police officers show up to break up a crowd of 50 people is just, to be in their shoes, I would find that a little daunting, just to deal with 12 and a half people by yourself. That's a lot of people to look after. And if there's already instances of public drinking going on and there's no enforcement or regulation of that, and I understand that the police is understaffed at this moment, but if we are going to more or less try to kick this down the pipeline for the summer and we already have a shortage of police officers, then I don't think that that's a very conducive move in terms of how we're going to handle this engagement. Another thing, or my final thing, is, I know that the city has desires, and I've talked to Brent, and something I'm very excited about is, moving down towards the river. And if we were to instigate or assess the situation a little more and try to move down towards the river, why not facilitate the entertainment district towards that scope of things? It would bring a lot more business in that area. The businesses, and at least the ones that we've talked to and the people that have signed this letter, in terms of who's in support of it, and obviously there is a different number, but in terms of directly on the square, about, I think it was 60% of the people that we talked to that had liquor license that will be operating up until this point of when the EDC is activated, they were not in favor, and they didn't want to buy cups. They didn't want to participate because they didn't see it as any sort of incentive for their business. If this was established and we started moving towards the river, then, potentially that would be an incentive for other businesses to jump on that train. But to me, as a small business owner and someone who loves the square and the beauty of downtown Bowling Green, I just don't. I think it's going to open a Pandora's box that will take a lot longer to reseal than it will to open. Thank you. You guys have any questions or no? Just comments?
We're listening to you.
Okay. Thank you.
Council, my name is Micah Rigdon. I'm the other owner of Donna's Bar. I would just like to address one main misconception that I've kind of heard in these meetings, and that is blaming most of the situations on college kids. As far as our clientele go, the main group that I have to deal with and throw out is usually 25 to 50-year-old men. And they're usually from out of town. And they don't care about our establishment because they're not from here and they're not planning on coming back necessarily anytime too soon. So it's not going to be an issue if they act like children, to put it blatantly. So I want to make sure that we understand that if we're actually trying to take in this crowd of 30 to 50-something-year-old people from out of town and bring them into the downtown environment, you are actually increasing the situation that I have to deal with, because that's the crowd that doesn't understand you can't grope women when they're dancing, that certain people don't like to be in conversations with strangers, and personal space. So it's not always the college kids that are causing all the problems. Usually I can just yell at them and they snap right too. It's the adults. It's the 25 to 50-year-old men who are coming in from out of town who don't understand how we do things. So I just wanted to make that one clarification. I won't take up any more of your time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You knew it was going to happen. So, my name's Tom Holmes. I own 440 Main. I think what you're trying to do is great. I've been through this for 25 years. I remember when we tried to get the liquor license on Sundays. Everybody's screaming, we're all going to die. It's going to end. We're all going to hell. You know, oh, we're building a ballpark? You're kidding me, millions? I see people in my restaurant now that I've never seen in my life, where 10 years ago, it was only the people I knew in my life. We have built downtown from being no lights on the square to a statement that people come and go, wow, what a statement to have this in y'all's town. The police presence has always been great. I know y'all went through a tough time. I love the guys that used to ride around the bikes. We built a relationship. Does crazy stuff happen downtown? Yes. Is that going to go away with or without that? No, it's not going to. The crazy crap happens from about midnight on. If you remember a place called JT's, we always swore we'd never stay open past midnight. My partner said, oh, let's try it. The next weekend, all of our chairs were in the damn fountain, you know? So we said, okay, that's out. You know, we can't control that. We are our own operators. If we overserve people, it's our fault. We should take the responsibility with it. But I pick out crap on my front porch. Just today, I was telling Josh, I had 2 high noon full cans stuck in my flower beds. I don't even sell that. I just found them today. So it had to happen on Saturday night. So it's happening. But I take the responsibility of getting up every Saturday morning, Sunday morning, coming down, and I clean my property. I clean yours, I clean TL's. Why can't we let this evolve? First, my recommendation is you do it every Friday and Saturday night. I think you'll have more problems if you don't, because I can and I can't, I can and I can't. And I don't know what those guidelines are. Just like you said, a lot of people coming in from out of town, how confused would they be with us? You know, you walk out the street one day with a cup in your hand, the next day you can't. I think we should consider that. 10 o'clock, I think that's great. Do I think it needs to go to 2? No, I don't. I think most of the entertainment that happens downtown ends at 9. But this gives you a chance to go from a ballpark or from Sky Pack or go from one business to the other to experiment and see what happens. Bathrooms, usually says 22 license. There's got to be a bathroom somewhere. I don't think that's the big issue. Do I think the issue happens late night? Yes, I do. Do I think we have a homeless issue that goes around downtown? Yes, I do. Do I think it's part of our battle? Yeah. Do you think the only customer that comes to my restaurant only uses my restrooms? No way. You know, it's part of doing business downtown. You know, I understand that. I think you guys are doing the right things. Let's take this and let's evolve where it needs to go. If adding bathrooms is what we need to do, then let's do that. But let's get it started. Let's get it moving like we did the ballpark, like we did the Sky Pack. You know, I sat here with Doug Hawkins swore that he'd never let anybody walk out of a building in his life with a drink in his hand. Now we're to this step. We're trying to continue to keep moving our concept. We didn't have anybody living downtown 12 years ago. Now we do. Well, we have to adjust that. I sat at the 2008 meeting about the music because I had music and the retirement home wanted to cut it down completely. There would be no music in the park. And we were able to move that sound to, I think, a 57 decimal. I can't remember the exact meanings of that. Let's just continue to evolve. This can always be taken away if we don't handle it right. But we'll never know if we don't start it. So let's at least start it. Let's do a Friday and Saturday. Let's manage it. Let's get the police involved. Let's get the community involved. And let's evolve where it needs to go. We don't know. But you're right, it could get us to the river. I mean, it could be the thing that gets us to the river. It gets us to continue to expand downtown. We have a national concept downtown for the first time ever. Do they drive us nuts with the cookies and the cars? They all sit in their cars with, waiting for their order to be. You can't park downtown right now. But I love it because it's downtown. They all sit in their car waiting for their order to come across their phone. Then they get out of the car, go get their order, get back in the car, and drive away. But it's a national concept downtown. So I will do my bit. I'll do whatever you ask me to do. I ask that we give this a chance. I ask that we have growing pains, and I ask that we evolve from where it takes us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
It's never good to follow Tom home. My name is Josh Poling. I'm the owner of Hickory and Oak downtown, and I'm going to echo a lot of what Tom said. Of the 14 bar owners, I can tell you I am a very stern yes. There is no but afterwards or anything. I am adamantly for this. It would have been a lifeline during COVID. And when I opened Hickory and Oak in 2018, I remember making social media posts asking for this. So I'm very, very much in favor of this. I won't hide it at all. And I feel like we're really caught up in a lot of problems that don't exist right now. Our parks are absolutely phenomenal. My patio overlooks Circus Square every day. It is immaculate. It is a shining star in our community. Brent, you have done an incredible job with that, and I feel like we're punishing him right now for a problem that doesn't exist. We're talking about bathrooms and we're talking about trash, and we don't have those problems. I'm on Circus Square. I send a manager down the day of International Festival, the day of Pride, pretty much the day of the Christmas parade, anytime there's something going on, for the sole reason of let's open our doors to let people use our bathrooms. Because the hardest part of being downtown is getting people downtown. It's getting them in the doors. So when there's events like that, if I can open my restrooms, absolutely. You need an ice water? Absolutely. I'm more than happy to do that. That's part of doing business downtown. That's part of doing business in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Anybody I can get in my doors, that's a potential customer, so I consider that a win. And like I said, if we can get them downtown, that's a huge win because downtown's incredible. I think a lot of the reason there's people so passionate about this is it is downtown, and so many of us have made individual investments. You're not talking about corporations, you're talking about people, you're talking about families that have done things, and I think a lot of people are picturing Mardi Gras, but it's not Mardi Gras. I picture me and Chelsea being able to get a glass of wine and go sit in the park and listen to music. Wouldn't that be awesome? It doesn't necessarily have to be worst case scenario. It could be best case scenario. And to echo what Tom said, if we don't let this go forward, we'll never know if it was best case or worst case or anything. The first step is let's get this thing rolling. Also, I just want to talk, there's a lot of talk about police presence with this thing. We have had interactions with the Bowling Green Police Department and Hickory and Oak. We've had unruly customers just like every bar or restaurant would. They have been nothing short of phenomenal. The way they come in, they're very cordial. They handle the whole situation in respect, including the person that was causing the problem. They reply quickly. And once again, I feel like we're kind of punishing BGPD for a problem that doesn't exist yet. We don't know that they can't monitor this. And if it's 10,000 people, he said himself, yeah, we've got a problem, but it's probably a Hot Rods game or it's a Sky Pack concert. And they're probably walking from Hickory and Oak to Sky Pack with a drink in their hand. If they need a restroom between Hickory and Oak and Sky Pack, then they probably need to go to a doctor. We don't need to worry about the EDC. There's a lot of really good things that can come out of this. And the number one thing is we can provide private businesses with additional revenue. And I always think that should be the goal of government, is helping its citizens and helping business owners. You guys are doing a really great job. I'm so excited to see this come forward. Brent, the plan is awesome. I mean, it is. I know everybody's taking their shots over this thing and there's a lot of passion. I just can't wait for Concert in the Park to start. Let's open the doors and let's have fun. That's the biggest thing, and let's do it in a safe manner. Trust us that we can manage it. We have a liquor license. We're liable anyway. We can manage this thing. We can make sure it's done the right way, a safe way. I clean my parking lot every morning. I clean our patio every morning. That's just part of doing business. But I'm thrilled about this. I'm so excited. I can't express it enough. I hope you guys please move forward with this. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name is Susan Heckner, and I am owner of Barbara Stewart Interiors. And I'm speaking to you all tonight as a business owner and a retail establishment. I do not own a restaurant. I do not own a bar. And I really am glad that those that are here tonight got up and spoke and told about their concerns and their goals in this whole event. I am totally in favor of this EDC program. I think it will be wonderful for downtown Bowling Green. We need the growth. We need the opportunities that this will bring to our downtown, additional businesses. And yes, I'd love to see it extend all the way down to the river and bring more businesses in through that, our little alley, the Heritage Walk. I think that could be a real potential. So, yes, I'd love to see public restrooms. I know that would be a major expense for Bowling Green. But as we grow, maybe it is a possibility. The trash issues, yes, there's trash. But if I had a place out on Scottsville Road, I'd have trash. That's part of being in business. The police presence, that's not ever been an issue for me, but you know, I have to trust that they will be here when we need them, because they always have been for me. So I just wanted to say, as a retail owner, property owner, I'm in total favor. Thank you.
I hear from Ashley.
Good evening. My name is Ashley Wilson, and I'm with the Bowling Green Hot Rods. And I stand here as myself and as our general manager, Eric Leach, and we are very much in support of the entertainment district. We have had many conversations, not only as downtown establishment and organization. I stand here as a lifelong citizen of Bowling Green, and I think it would be such an amazing opportunity. We're talking about evolving and moving forward and growing, and Bowling Green has grown so much. I've left. I lived in New York City for a little while. I came back because Bowling Green is my home, and I love it, and I love how much it's evolved, and I love seeing it grow, and I love seeing it grow for our future and the things that, I mean, we have a ballpark, we have a performing arts center, things that are just incredible assets to the community. And this, I don't think, is supposed to make any trouble for anybody. I don't think anyone sets out to do anything to make trouble for anyone. This is for fun, for growth, and as far as garbage is concerned, I don't think anyone picks up more trash than I do after a Bowling Green Hot Rods game in and around the ballpark. So if it's trash we're worried about, I know that my staff has done plenty of trash pickup in our day, and we wouldn't mind doing any more. But that being said, I just want to say Hot Rods are in full sport.
Andrew from Bowling Green Pipe and Cigar. I think we sent everybody an email today. Just wanted to say we are in full favor of it. Thank you.
Sir.
I need a stool. My name's Jessica Hayes. I own the Hearth Room downtown. I'm in full favor of this. I've only had the store open for a year now, but one of the things that I know we could benefit from, and everyone around the square and downtown can benefit from, is the foot traffic. I'm more in favor of the 11 a.m. to like 6, 7 p.m. crowd. And in saying that, I would just ask that the food owners around the square and downtown open for lunchtime so they have somewhere to go get drinks. So I'm in favor.
Bashful, we want to hear from you. Someone out there wants to talk.
I'm Bridget Langdon. I'm the general manager of Cliffs and More. I know I spoke last time you all had a work session. I think we are not maybe so much in favor at this time, and I think there's kind of a divide between businesses that are retail or that are serving earlier and businesses that are serving later. Some of those of us that are serving until 2 a.m. are having some concerns because we are going to be dealing with the after effects of this and the cleaning up of it when we already see it so much when it comes to the drinking crowd, as opposed to restaurants who are operating during earlier hours or retail businesses who do not serve alcohol at all. So I'm basically bringing up the same concerns that have been brought up by other bar owners and by some of us in the past, where it comes down to the police presence being available after this EDC is not activated any longer. Things being cleaned up earlier on during the day. I have a little bit different perspective as a bar operating that does open at 11 a.m. and serve through 2 a.m. So we are not only dealing with picking things up in the morning that may or may not be our business, but could have happened after we have already closed, and we have to clean and do all that during the day. But then we're also dealing with those issues very late at night. So that's a lot. I mean, that's a lot on my plate as a business manager, dealing with not only the cleanup in the morning, but at night. I can say for myself, I got home from work at 5:45 a.m. this past Saturday night. And that is partially because of the time change, but even without the time change, I've still been there till 5:30 a.m. in the morning. And that is because people who are getting disorderly or throwing up or doing this and that. Now, we're already dealing with that, but it is a concern when those people are still potentially causing those issues and cleanup for us, but not necessarily return business for us. So if we're sending business out the door, but we're still cleaning up after that, and from people that are migrating from other businesses, that is a concern. A lot of it is the public restrooms. We already have people come in and use the restroom that haven't drank there, throw up in the urinal trough, throw up in our front planters, put their cigarettes out in there. We have to tell people not to bring drinks in. One of the biggest concerns, I think, with the open cups is a cutoff time, where if it is going to be 10 p.m., that is when we're already starting to see our business picking up and the high volume of nighttime drinkers as opposed to daytime drinkers and that kind of rowdier crowd. For me to have to tell them at 10 p.m., hey, this is no longer a thing. You can't take this drink outside. Those people don't necessarily want to listen to that. I mean, I've already had people come into the bar and be like, did they already pass that thing where we can walk around the square and take our drinks with us? And I'm like, it's not even been voted on yet. There's already, and that comes with the public education. There's gonna have to be a huge push for that because, I mean, I can't explain to every drunk person, no, the cutoff time is 10 p.m. You can't take this drink outside. They have a temper tantrum. I have to call the cops. 2 police officers, that's not gonna be able to, and I understand the being understaffed, but that is a concern because it has taken 3 of my door staff members on a Saturday night before to subdue somebody who is getting physically violent and have to take them outside. And that's 3 door staff members who are not necessarily trained to handle those situations. So 2 police officers or 4 police officers for an area this large is a big concern for me personally. I think that that's a safety issue. And when we're already having to deal with this, it's kind of hard to see the benefits if we don't have the infrastructure. It's just it's a little bit worrisome. And I like the concept. I like the idea of people being drawn towards downtown. I have said this before. I've worked downtown for about 5 years, and I live downtown, and I love it, and it's a beautiful area. But if we are going to cause problems for ourselves, we are going to shoot ourselves in the foot in that regard. I also agree that moving towards the riverfront is a great idea. I just think if we are going to move that direction, starting all the way up at Mellow Mushroom, is extending that to a huge region that obviously right now we don't have the ability to maintain. I think that about covers it, honestly. Thank you all.
My name is Jonathan Bryant. I'm that yes but guy. I said something in the previous meeting 2 weeks ago that I want to clarify. I guessed at the size of that zone, and I guessed it between 25 and 30 acres. I went back and measured it on our PVA maps. It is actually 78 acres. It is gigantic. Another question that I have. Is everything highlighted in blue going to be the city's license, or is it only the dark blue stripes? My question is, does it transfer over to private property, or is it only the, so if you walk, okay, sure.
No offense. So the question is, what is the licensed premise? The licensed premise would be the public spaces, which would be the park areas and the sidewalks in those areas. So that map is a representation of the overall area, and so this does not extend onto private property premises.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name's Caleb Hastings. I own an Airbnb downtown, and this is kind of awkward for me because I really like some of the no's or the yeses. I mean, I really hope that Josh and Tom and Andrew still let me come into their establishment if I say no to this, please. You know, they're great people, and I like that we have so many people that are for and against and concerned. What I want to say is, you know, having an Airbnb, it's just my wife and I. We don't have a staff. We don't have managers that I can tell, you know, go clean this up. You know, get there early and make sure the parking lot's swept and cleaned. We show up and there's graffiti and there is trash, beer bottles, excrement. And to your point, I do have a business on Scottsville Road. Well, I did up till last year. I had no cameras on that business. I didn't have to go out and clean up that business. My building downtown is covered in cameras, and I have to clean that up. So I think there is more of an issue downtown with it than there might be on Scottsville Road. So I'm going to say I'm not in favor of it unless we can, you know, maybe make it smaller. Maybe we can look at where the 14 people are that really were for it. They're going to benefit the most from it, and maybe exclude the people that are going to reap the repercussions of it instead of reaping the benefits of it, like me. So maybe looking at spending some more time seeing where the best part of it is. So appreciate it, and like I said, I hope they still serve me for saying no to it.
Thank you, sir.
Ask if he's in the footprint or not.
Sir, is your business in the footprint, your Airbnbs?
It's right across from tip ball, so we get a lot of the repercussions from what will happen.
Thank you. All right, last call. All right, a recall? All right.
There's one more point. Micah Rigdon, Donna's Bar, sorry. As far as infrastructure, there is another situation that hasn't really been brought up, and that is transportation. Uber and Lyft never really came back after COVID, and we don't have like a cab system or a shuttle system to get people safely home after they've been drinking. So another situation that's going to come up is we're going to have a higher amount of DUIs, or at least people drinking and driving and maybe not getting caught. If we don't have a proper way of safely getting people out of the downtown area, they will continue to stay and linger, and that can lead to a predatory situation where somebody can take advantage of somebody who's drunk trying to get a ride home. So that's another aspect of the situation where if we're bringing a bunch of people in, we have to be able to get them out safely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We appreciate our public. We appreciate our businesses.
I had a question for them if.
I wasn't done.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry.
I was just, before you closed, I just wanted to let you know I had a question.
You're asking questions? Okay. Well, go ahead.
I was just checking, because none of you had mentioned anything after the new information that the staff had talked about in terms of increasing trash cans and, talking about, the need for a public bathroom. Some of you mentioned that. And then the extra police presence. So I just wanted to check and see if you felt like those would be helpful in addressing some of those concerns, just because, yes, okay, so I'm seeing nods. So thank you. I just need to ask that question. Thank you.
What we have here is opportunity, and opportunity doesn't come easy, and there's been a lot of investment into the city of Bowling Green. What we are also identifying is that we understand there's existing problems. I got to hear from each of you, the world that you live in, because this is your downtown. You are the ones making this downtown operate and thrive. But what you're getting is an opportunity for a partner willing to increase the commerce of downtown. Nashville, they have all the same problems you have, but they build bigger establishments because they have more customers. We're driving commerce. We're looking to drive commerce to downtown Bowling Green, to increase commerce that are in your pockets. And the investment that we have is a community partner. So what we also understand is that we don't have it exactly right. But I do, and like I stated last time, I think this is a crawl, walk, run. And maybe one day we will be downtown on the river in a van. I'm sorry I had to say it. But we will build Bowling Green, and we'll continue to build it. But what we understand is that your partnership is here. It's working with neighborhood and community services, with public works. It's working with police. It's working with your city commissioners. It's working with trying to build an opportunity to increase this commerce. Bowling Green's going to grow with or without me, without one of us, but it will grow better together. And so what we are asking is for an opportunity to put a license in with the state of Kentucky to do this legally and to do this together. Not myopically, not a single business, but as a downtown growing together. So we all have to work with each other. We understand we need more trash receptacles. We understand we need more police presence, but that's not just downtown, that's all the city of Bowling Green. We understand that we have investments that may need to be made in the future. And one of those is that we are looking and putting more opportunity and growth into the downtown river area. That is specifically a city-driven management level and as a commissioner level. But we won't get there overnight. But we have to start with that first step. And so what I hope is that those that are not interested and say, this is not for me, that hopefully one day you'll say it is, or what we can do to make your business better and what we can do to make you more prosperous. That's the goal here. My vote is that we continue, we take the process to move forward for the application to start an EDC. But what I'm not stating is that we've got it exactly right. But I do have professionals that work within the city, and you have professionals that work within the city that are going to be that partnership. We're putting that investment in. And yes, it may take more employees, as we stated. and it'll take a presence that they're doing at Owensboro. But my goal, my effort, commissioners, is that we move forward.
One moment. I didn't get that. Could you try again?
No. Sorry about that. It is on mute. But that's where I stand, commissioners.
And I'll be that ditto person. I hate to do that, but I've been after this for a long time, and I just see it's an opportunity for us to get a shot in the arm and a fighting chance for our downtown to come to life. We have already a $6 million investment and more to come. And we are committed to the downtown, to the riverfront and all of that, and give it a fighting chance. I like the ones that say, hey, let's, Tom and Josh and those that said, let's give it a try. What's to hurt from giving it a try? And I have all of the confidence and trust in the world for our directors that are standing here today saying, yep, we're going to have a presence, yep, we're going to make this thing go, we're going to do everything we can to make this a success so that you all have the opportunity to be successful. I was a restaurant owner. I owned the Cambridge Market for years. It would scare me to be, downtown and the investment that it takes to be down there and not have the city working on your behalf. It's our crown jewel. It is absolutely our crown jewel, downtown. We don't want to see anything bad happen to it, that's for sure. So whatever is going on that we don't like, we want to focus on, and that, I think, came to light in our last meeting, and sounds to me like city staff has digested that and came back with solutions that, as Dana asked, seem to be pretty good ones. So let's, I'm for giving, I am for giving it a try. And I also really appreciate not turning it on and off. The Friday, Saturday thing is ideal. We're just setting ourselves up for more bureaucracy, more confusion. Why is your event okay to have a EDC trigger and your event isn't? And that's what we're going to hear. So why do that to ourselves? Let's cut the bureaucracy. Friday, Saturday, that's our crawl. And then maybe we can walk and include Wednesday or Thursday at some other time or whatever we might do. But I'm with you, Mayor. I say we try to put a shot in the arm of our downtown that we all love. I didn't hear anybody here say they didn't love downtown. Not a one. And I'm not going to speak for the whole commission, but I also love Bowling Green. That includes downtown. Thank you.
So I just so I know, we've given Brent clear direction. I think he had a question for us in terms of 9 or 10, and then so I just wanted to check and see what questions in terms of all the stuff that we kind of brought up today that you needed to have a clear sort of consensus from us about what to include in the plan and what not to. And
Yes. So I think the options at the start of this conversation, whenever that was, this evening, was the trigger. After looking at the percentage of activity, I think we would prefer it to just be Friday, Saturday if the commission wants to move forward because of the frequency of these. I think it creates harder public education. I think it's harder to explain. It's easier to say Friday, Saturday. Now, if this evolves and that goes into Thursdays or whatever, that is a different conversation for a different day. But looking at the frequency and knowing that at this graph right here is going to be the minimum, it will only go up from here. And this is for 2022, and using this as a baseline for future years, that I think it's just cleaner to have a Friday, Saturday. So I would need a consensus from you all on that to change that. Yeah.
I'll concur.
Okay, I see a consensus. The other thing was about time, whether 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock. What is that transition point? And you heard commentary this evening that talked about that as what that time should be. I don't think we're taking a position on it, but if we were using the mayor's analogy of this crawl, walk, run, we can look at a 9 o'clock as that crawl and to give them more buffer before that transition point, because we also understand that 9 o'clock gives more buffer to that transition point whenever that actual nighttime crowd is.
Can I ask, like, when's the latest time a baseball game starts? Like, when they would arrive at that destination, or when does the latest Sky Pack thing start?
We'll have to defer to the professionals on that.
Hot Rods games, the latest will start at 6:35 p.m.
And Sky Pack, do we know?
Probably around 7-ish, I would say, 7:30, 7:30.
And then when we have concerts in the park, when does that?
Those end at 9?
Okay.
I sent you an email too. I thought 9 o'clock, because if we are wanting to crawl a little bit, that, you know, really the bar scene down there is going to be more like 11. You're going to let the adults go home, and
If we're wanting to crawl, could we start it later too, instead of at 11 or 12 o'clock in the daytime?
that to some of the events that go on during the day, like gallery hops and something, maybe she wants to have a sidewalk sale, and, you know, you're going to kind of miss out on some of those event opportunities that.
Thing I want to point out too, this is important for staff, but the ordinance does not have to have this in it. So the ordinance
It's the permission.
just directs us to apply for the license. It has to have a map. It has to have exact boundaries.
Asking us for direction. I think
Right.
We're trying to give some
But
of
those
that.
are things we can change without ever amending an ordinance. So if you say 11 to 9 and decide 10, those are all little things that can be addressed as we
And
try it out.
stakeholders' input is vital for the success of this. It truly is. You know, whether you're on the yay or the nay, or you the hate or the love, it's vital that you continue to give us input. We're here for you. And so don't take this as I lost tonight. Take this as I've got that partner and I'm going to continue to work with you.
Was there a consensus on the 9, so at least we know as an implementation plan? Okay. The other part is really about the area. Going back to the map, Jonathan did the calculation. We went back and forth on it. If it's too big, if it's too small, I wish it was shaped different, but it is what it is. The ballpark's where it's at, Circus Square is where it's at, Sky Pack's where it's at, and Fountain Square is where it's at, and that's where the establishments are. You know, we're not going to move them all around, but at this point, this is the area that we have to work with, that we have presented to you all.
I like the area. Now, and I did go visit with most of the businesses in this area, and folks were really excited, and I know there's a few of them on this list that I personally was in. Now, the owner may not have been there, but Sue was, and I talked to somebody in charge, but you know.
So can I ask a question on that, just for clarification? Let's say there's somebody standing in BB&T's drive-through, which is private property. It's not a licensed premise. Is that allowed or not allowed?
No, they
Can we talk about that a little bit and be specific on what we're really talking about and what the police would be responsible for in looking at?
They can go from one licensed premise to another licensed premise, not inside, or on any of the city right-of-way sidewalks, parks. That's where the license is. It's just in those walkways.
So if the BGPD were to see people standing around in a private parking lot that's not an established licensed premise, they can be
Cited.
told and cited to move along or whatever.
Correct. And the cups don't work there.
Can I ask how Owensboro educated the public about that, since there will be signage that will include private properties that aren't licensed? So how did that education?
Make it as part of the map and as part of the public education. You make it as part of the signage. You make it as part of the social media. It's also about whenever we talked about the QR code on the cup and making that available to the people so that you're reinforcing the same message. And so that's the responsibility of our downtown development coordinator in this role, is handling that public education. Is it going to be challenging? Yes, public education is one of the hardest things that we do, trying to even keep the basic things of, what do you mean I have to mow my grass? Nobody ever told me that before. Even the simple things are difficult to convey, but you have to be clear and consistent about your messaging. And so that's where talking about that activation, deactivation makes it more difficult to convey a clear message.
Should we have something, I guess, some type of signage for these businesses that want to be licensed so that the customers can see we're EDC licensed.
Be a participating, there would be some type of participating identifier, but we also have to do signage around the perimeter. So we have to at least perimeter, so make people aware. You are exiting the entertainment district. You cannot take alcohol outside of this area. And so we have to do that as well under the license with the state ABC. And so that's why this area, as Hillary said, is an important part of this. We can change times, we can change all these other things. Those are local decisions, but the area is a bigger part of this. So we need to know that this is the area moving forward.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. So we also talked about, do we need to talk about if we have consensus on whether we want to have a staff person who would?
I don't think as part of this conversation. So whenever we talked about this, I'm responsible for the EDC side. That's why I kind of stepped away from the other side. Some of those other complexities of downtown is really an ongoing conversation. What I heard tonight is the potential for looking at downtown as a destination and how do we manage and maintain downtown as a destination. And I think that's a separate conversation that we can do. Just as Ms. Hightower talked about, noise is kind of a separate conversation because it's more complex than what we can take. We have people, hey, we're concerned about noise. Okay, well, you got to get into the specifics of that. We need to come back to say, okay, here's some of the plans, but just know the capacity is not there under existing labor forces in the organization to meet that demand. So that would have to be another increase in that capacity for us to move forward in that area.
I guess for me as a commissioner and my support for moving forward with the EDC, that comes with a commitment from me that I think we need to talk about the noise ordinance and figure that part out about the amplified noise at 2 a.m. and also staffing it like Owensboro does, making sure that we have the infrastructure in place, that the places that it's really successful, we make sure we're learning from them and making sure we have that same sort of support that they have found works. So I understand what you're saying. It's not part of the EDC, but it's connected to my feeling like we aren't putting the cart before the horse, that we are committed to addressing the concerns that were raised by, the current situation we already have. I feel the need to know from my fellow commissioners, do you all also want to pursue looking at a noise ordinance and staffing it like Owensboro does?
So I think there are two separate questions. One, if we're going to look at the noise ordinance, that's specific to larger than this area. It's not just an EDC issue. On the staffing, I don't want to get in the weeds, but I think it's necessary to be successful that we have, to be just like Owensboro. If that's the recommendation, then absolutely. But again, I don't want to get in the weeds with what our city needs to do to accomplish to make this successful. We are given the premises on whether the licensing can exist or not. And when it exists, I think there's a lot of things that are going to be done necessary to make this successful. And, we're not going to get public restrooms overnight, but we may have porta-johns and we may have, specific areas that can build out to make this successful. So I don't think we're really making those decisions. We kind of hearing from us, yes, we agree, we want it to be successful, but what specific is that? I don't have that exact answer. I don't think that's our goal to establish.
Yeah, and I'm not asking for specificity. I just wanted to check. I wanted to make sure I know I'm coming away with understanding, are we all interested in pursuing, continuing to make sure we can figure out if there is a noise issue that we want to see if learn from other cities. Do we want to do what Owensboro does with regards to a staff? And do we want to look at what would it take to adequately have public restrooms? And so those three things you mentioned, I just was curious about your all's.
From my standpoint, Dana, I think it just has to evolve. I think we have to do the crawl, and we have to see what's necessary and what is going to be necessary as we move forward. If this thing is a huge success, all of that, we'll have revenues to back that up. We'll have more businesses, we'll have more employees, we'll have more vibrancy, we'll have more tax, we'll have more.
Well, I just heard from them that they feel like those things are necessary. It's they're saying it's necessary now, is what I'm hearing. And so I just am.
I don't want to be just like Owensboro, but they do have a golf cart, a mule with somebody on it. I don't know if they started that way or that's what they evolved to. I don't know. I'd have to ask them.
And I don't think it's about what Owensboro does or what Covington does, what Frankfurt does. Every community has to make their own determinations and their own assessments and their own needs. And so I think that's the responsibility of us. But if you're trying to provide an enhanced level of service to a particular area, that has to come with an increase in the ability to provide that level of service. If it is a standard level of service, as we would apply to any park or any sidewalk, then that is the level of service that is currently delivered. And so if that's something that you all are interested in us pursuing from a staff perspective, then we'd be glad to bring you something. It's just going to, I don't know when that's going to be with some of the timing aspects.
I guess I am for it, and I would like, I guess, to look at it, but I'm not hard opposed to being against it just for the noise ordinance. But I do think that we do need to look at it, even if it's not with this, at least separately. So I do believe that it'll bring commerce, and I agree with the mayor, and I agree with everybody that's up here that being able to crawl is probably the best way to go. 9 p.m. and try to see how it goes, and then hopefully we can extend it, because hopefully we can see, it does extend one day down to the ballpark. I do also recognize the time differences for some of the businesses that were for it and some of the businesses that were against it. Most of the businesses that were for it probably close around maybe 10 to midnight, and a lot of the businesses that I heard that were against it, they're just starting to ramp up. So I do believe that 9 p.m., hopefully there's a buffer that's right there to get, some members would start going home instead of going to the bar. And it may not be, but at least we'll be able to look at this time period to see if it works.
Carlos?
I think that's all the things that I had.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, public. Thank you for being here.
Here. So do you want us to bring you an ordinance on April 19th
Yes.
to vote on?
Yes.
Okay.
We have consensus. All right. And now we are open for public comments. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you coming tonight.
Oh, you're going to adjourn?
All right, so we have we have 3. Let's see if the 3 are here. They've already spoken. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Hi, Jim. You're awfully quiet tonight.
We're going into closed session.
Buddy again.